Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 187 of Beer Nuts the Podcast Adjunct series. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to Florida tonight. As y'all know, if you've been watching or listening in the past, big fans of Florida here on the pod. It's a place that I personally love, and fortunately getting back there next year again, which I'm stoked about. And another thing we've been trying to do here, at least this year and moving into next year as well, is really get a lot more American breweries on the pod, just expand the horizons a bit and get to know some different scenes from different states. I feel like we've done pretty well this year, and so it's very cool to be heading back to Florida. And this is a brewery that is relatively new to me as well, so I'm excited to hear a lot more about what's going on actually from Central Florida. So I don't know as much about what's going on out there. So it's best case scenario, folks. I'm super stoked. So let me make sure I get this correct. So we're gonna go, boom. We can go here, guys. Oh, hang on, wait. Please welcome Marco and Tyler from home state in the building. Hey, and boom, gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, what's going on,
mate? Great to have you both. Great to meet you guys. Thank you for taking the time and hanging out on this glorious Wednesday evening. And I'm sure it's what's the weather looking like out there? Obviously, Canadians are going to ask you that.
Oh, right now it is a crisp 65 degrees.
65 F2C. That is 18. Oh,
18, yeah.
Jeez.
Rolled in, so
yeah. I mean, look, it's better than here, but that's is that normal for what is it? Mid-December?
It's a little chilly right now for season. Yeah. What's really funny is it's 60 degrees and you've got people out here in winter hats and gloves and scarves. It's like, okay.
I always felt like it was a thing whenever I'm somewhere warm, like Florida, Cali, or something like that. I always feel like I see people wearing like full hoodies and sweatpants, and it's 30 degrees Celsius, I don't know, like 90s or something. Because I feel like it's like, oh, you get bored of wearing shorts and a t-shirt all the time, so people force it. Is that how it goes, or people are warm-blooded?
Well, you have the clothes, so you're just waiting for the excuse to wear it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? You would get old.
And for context, Tyler grew up here in Florida, Tampa area. I grew up in Chicago, so I'm a cold weather guy.
Okay, so you know how it goes. You understand. So I guess you appreciate it more, perhaps.
Oh yeah, it's nice. I'm living the paradise.
I love it. Do you ever get sick of it, Tyler? Then, or is it all kind of like? Do you just like? This is how it is. It's how it should be.
I like the warm weather, but my family originally is from Duluth, Minnesota, so I also have a weird appreciation for the extreme cold.
Extreme.
I was my wife in Stowe, Vermont, or Burlington, Vermont, and there's like 17 when we went. So a weird idea for a lot of people's vacation, but I'm into it in a weird way. Not that this is anything compared to that, but no, I like the cold too.
Okay, good. It makes sense. I know someone from Costa Rica, but then she lives in Palm Beach or something, and she said she never felt below 15 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that was. Pretty much where you're at now, she never even felt it before. I was like, damn, imagine that. That's kind of cool. Respect. Sorry to talk about weather, but I'm always fascinated for people who grew up around that. So, guys, we're going to sick lineup of beers from you guys tonight. A mix of your flagships and some of your one-offs, which is super fun. And we're going to kick off with one of the flagships. It's bad boy right here. There we go. Come on. There we go. Party Goblin American Lager. It's that 4%? No, 3.6.
3.6, yeah.
Super crusher. Amazing. Tell us about this one, fellas.
So this was one of the beers that we produced early on when we first opened in the tap room, and there was a clear demand for just something light and crisp and drinkable. And so, this is one of the beer styles that I'm always a huge fan of. Oh, look at that. You got a nice beer clean glass too.
Look at that crystal.
Oh yeah. So, just an American lager. It's got a little bit of corn in there. Very easy drinking, mostly just, Canadian Pilsner malt and Super Sauser hops from Michigan, which zip, this little kind of grassy characteristic. But, for me, it's funny. I've heard some of your guests on your show previously kind of talk shit about drinking Miller High Life. That was always one of the beers that was my go-to, and so this is kind of like a craft version of that style, if you will.
Okay.
There it is. Do a selfie time.
Had to do it, boys. Have to.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, some people. You know what's funny? Some people either shit on Miller High Life or like it's like back in the day we used to ask at the end of every episode we had like a lightning round, and the first question was like a desert island beer that came up an obscene like more than 50% of the time. It was So I feel like there might have just been some haters for the ones that you listen to. So I'm sorry to
No worries. No, yeah, but this is meant to be kind of like a more full-bodied version of you get a lot of those kind of same flavor characteristics, but it's got a little more meat behind it, if you will.
Gotcha. I love it. This smells amazing, gentlemen. Once again, welcome. Great to have you. Cheers. Get it in you. Gorgeous. I see exactly what you mean. American lager with that, like you said, that corn kind of body, but it feels. I would not have picked 3.6 for this. This has way more flavor than that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, actually has rice in there too, doesn't it?
Yeah, bag of rice. The final gravity is a lot higher than a typical American lager. For competition, we usually enter this one into like German light beer, which is pretty much a lighter Helles. So in a way, like for like dog show sakes or whatever, you could kind of think of it as like a light version of a German Helles, but for marketing purposes, American lager.
Adjuncts in there too.
Yeah.
Right. Does that take it away from being a Helles then? The adjuncts? Is that sort of like the technical side?
On paper, yeah, I guess so.
On paper, yeah. This is awesome. So when this one, I think this is perfect. This has got to be. I mean, I know we're talking about weather. I'll try not to make it a common thing all the way through here, but I imagine this is probably popular. The hence being a flagship based. It's the type of beer you want to just be crushing when it's stinking hot. And
it's our number one selling beer in our tap room, and like number 2 selling beer in distro. Yeah.
No way. Okay.
It's one of my favorite beers too. So that's kind of for something. Right?
It's just like I always find a lot of brewers tend to sort of lean towards if you're going to just be a go-to. Would this be a go-to for you fellas for like the lighter, just like slam it back, don't think about it type of thing? Yeah, I can definitely see that. This is what were the hops you said were on it, man?
Super Zazer out of Michigan.
Oh yeah, I've seen.
Okay, Saz like clone, American clone, if you will.
I love that.
Hop Alliance, I think.
That's actually Hophead Farms.
Hophead Farms. Sorry. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah.
Zupa with a S-S-A-A-Z-E-R.
Yeah, Zupa Saza.
Zupa. That's very, that is extraordinarily German. I love it. I'm here for it. Sick, boys. No, this is awesome. And the, I like it feels like from off the rip, when I think of Florida, often like the pink and the blue are some that always just feels Florida to me, and then obviously the gator or goblin, whatever, looks like a gator a little bit. So I feel like this is Florida as hell.
Yeah, with the kind of pink neon kind of light colors. You'll kind of see that across a lot of our cans. And the thought is you see a lot of craft beer out there that's just like black and black on black and murdered out black. We kind of wanted to come in with branding that was a little more kind of relative to where we're living, and just a little differentiation on kind of what you're seeing typically.
Hell yeah, love it, boys. This is fantastic. So let's get into the story. Really keen to hear how that happened. So let's do like whoever wants to go first. But how did both of you get into craft beer, and then how did that kind of lead to the brewery?
Sure thing. I'll start. I started getting into brewing. I had some older friends that while I was in college when I was 18 that were introduced me to kind of craft beer. From there it turned into home brewing. From there it turned into when I was in college, just trying to get jobs bartending at breweries. And so I'm in Chicago at the time. Started bartending, serving at the original Goose Island brew pub up there.
Oh, what area is that called again?
So that's in Lincoln. That was it's no longer in existence.
Okay.
But it was in Lincoln Park.
Is that the one next to the Binnies?
It was, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I went there in like 2011 or some shit. Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. You two were bartending there, right?
Yeah. So that's 2008.
Okay.
I was there for about a year or so, and that's really kind of where I started. Kind of got my first glimpse of what commercial brewing looks like. Kind of became friendly with the brewers, and they let me come in and start just kind of volunteering my time to observe what they were doing, helping out here and there. And in 2010, Revolution Brewing opened, and that's where I moved over bartending, and kind of very quickly got an apprenticeship in the brewer, or like an internship in the brewery. And so I worked there for 4 years. That internship turned into a full-time like pub brewer job, like assistant brewer. Then in 2014, I moved to Asheville, North Carolina, and got a job at Wicked Weed when they were just. It was right before they moved into the Funkatorium space, so they were just brewing out of the brew pub, the original brew pub. Then a couple years there, they had a bunch of expansion. I kind of moved into a position where I was running the brew pub production side of things, and it was really cool. It was really cool because they had a pretty awesome sour program, and between the brew pub and the sour program, we were producing like 6,000 barrels of wort on like a 15-barrel system, just doing like double and triple brews, 6-7 days a week, which was
crazy.
Having only a handful of years of brewing experience and kind of stepping into that type of volume, it was pretty awesome. So from there, moved on to Miami, where I was the head brewer at Concrete Beach Brewery for a couple of years, down in which was a subsidiary of Boston Beer. That later, after I left, turned into the Dogfish Head Miami location, and then now is just like a high-rise construction, or like apartment building.
Of course it is. Where was that in Miami?
Wynwood.
Oh, in Wynwood.
Yeah.
Where was the Dogfish then?
Dogfish, I think they were in residence there from like 2021 to like 2 or 3. It was very short-lived before they kind of lost the lease, and they had to just kill that, essentially.
I feel like I heard about this. Okay, it said it was Northwest 24th.
Yeah, so it was right
by the walls.
Same street as J. Wakefield and Wynwood Brewing.
Yeah.
Within 3 blocks, you had 3 pretty awesome breweries to visit.
That's fire. Sick.
That was a cool time. From there, moved to Tampa in hopes of opening a brewery with a buddy of mine, but that didn't work out. And so in the meantime, I was just kind of helping a small kind of startup brew pub for about a year before moving to Orlando. And actually, when I was in Tampa, that's where I met Tyler. He was working at, I think, Coppertail at the time in Tampa. And so anyhow, moved to moved to Orlando then in 2018 to open this for the head brewer job at a corporate pizzeria brew pub, if you will. And worked there for a few years until I met my partners here that were kind of planning out Home State Brewing, that they started kind of planning out in 2017, right around 2020 when COVID hit. They had already found kind of like the space that they wanted to move into, needed, at that point they were looking at funding, trying to secure the SBA loan. They got us started up. And at which point, I met those guys, came on board, and, we decided to form a partnership. And there are 4 of us as partners in Home State. And we opened the doors in February of 2022.
Okay, so like coming up on
3
years.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. Damn. Was it easy? Did you have any trouble with finding the building and stuff?
A lot of the time spent looking at real estate was before I came onto the team. My partners spent probably 3 years looking at over 300 properties virtually. They probably visited like 100 properties physically until they found this location that was about 15 minutes away from where my partner Colin grew up in Winter Garden. And, it just kind of made sense. We're in this kind of new development. It's called Horizon West. We're in the Hamlin Town Center of this development. So it's kind of the hub of new construction. There's a lot of new people moving out here every day. yeah, they just kind of saw it as a great space that has a lot of like opportunity. We're kind of right on the intersection. Are able to have a big outdoor beer garden and stuff like that. So
That's sick.
We
I
rolled.
Sorry, go on, brother.
Yeah, we just rolled with it. It's cool.
I love that. I notice a lot of those type of developments in the States. I think it's so smart to have like this cool commerce center for those like newer developments that are like not chains. I feel like I saw that in like, I don't know, Nashville and like Detroit or different places. And I'm like, it's super smart. Like it's a real smart. It doesn't happen that much here, I guess is what I'm saying. Like if it is, it's like the same old whatever plug and play, like same bullshit restaurants that you can get anywhere. But I felt like in the States that it was like they're giving opportunity, and I bet there's like capitalist versus, I guess, democratic socialism, but they're like, I imagine they probably were making it more attractive for business owners to come in and to do something like this, to be like, hey, let's just make this bureaucracy as easy as possible. Hopefully, was it a pretty painless? I guess I'm saying this because I am looking at it as someone in Canada, being like, hey, we don't have this type of stuff here. Being that there's so many independent businesses, I imagine that they're probably making it relatively simple to fill in these spaces because the developers are like, let's get some tenants in, let's get this going type of thing. From what you understand, if you weren't involved in it, but was it a pretty easy process to
they were super receptive to the concept of what we wanted to do, and they're really interested in trying to make it work one way or another. So they were we found ways to come to an agreement with our lease and stuff that made it worthwhile for both parties. And it's really they kind of wanted us to be this kind of community hub, which we've kind of become. And we're absolutely here for all the events. We're here to support other local businesses and stuff like that. Any event that we put on, we always try to get like local vendors to come out to promote their businesses as well too. So that was their intention, I think, from the developer side, as well as us, just as also being a small business wanting to ensure that we're here to support the community.
Love it, man. That is super cool. So let's get Tyler's side, and then we can catch back up on the brewery. So Tyler, bro, how did it all go down for you, man?
Really, honestly, just time and place kind of thing. Grew up in Tampa, Florida. Pretty much at the beginning of the last really big craft beer boom, like 2010, 2011, a few years out of high school, right when, you start getting into drinking beer and stuff like that. It was really coming up in a big way in Tampa. Cigar City specifically was really spearheading that. Mm-hmm. So just living with a couple of really good friends, trying a bunch of like old guard stuff, Stone, Ballast Point, Lagunitas, and a lot of Cigar City at the time. Got into home brewing. Just I heard you could do this in your closet if you want to, and we got pretty good at it. Started bothering some of the like local brewers, I guess, like the usual things like, what do you think the difference is between Vienna and Munich malt, and just being a home brewer. Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
Love that. Here for it. That's how you do it.
I just persistent. Got a gig at Cigar City Brew Pub, and eventually Coppertail, working the bar.
Hang on, you're being too modest. we gotta roll this back.
Well, they only got so many hours on the podcast.
Hours.
I'm not trying
we got time, Tyler. We got time. Mako time.
Tyler was like the king of Florida homebrewing, I think, in like 2016 or something.
I was the king nerd in 2017. You can there's like homebrew competitions, and you can acclimate points and stuff like that. In 2017, I had the most points of all the Florida homebrewers. So I was
gonna let you bypass it.
Florida homebrewer of the year in 2017, I guess. But that was
hell yeah. Hey, that's not easy though, bro. Like you're right not to downplay that.
Dude. Yeah.
It's got to be almost harder to brew it in this little cowboy than it is. Actually, that's probably not fair. Well, it's not easy anyway.
It totally is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Homebrewers get a bad rap in our industry sometimes, but as an ex-homebrewer, like I try to give them their love, because the passion's there. You know what I mean? You're doing it because
totally,
not because you fell into it, kind of thing.
Mm.
But worked at Coppertail for a couple of years in the packaging line, light subtle work, and eventually actually got to join up with Cigar City around 2017, 2018. Worked there for several years. That was really kind of where I got the bulk of my my know-how and everything like that. I really got to learn the majority of my skill set. Met Marco in that time frame while he was working at Zydeco. Always just a good hang. Me and Marco's have always gotten along, and we've worked at a few different breweries. I think Marco's also, before working together now, the #1 like collaborated brewer. Just any excuse you could get, like, hey, you want to get a collab on the books next week, whatever. And so probably 6 or 7 of those, and then eventually moved to Orlando, Florida, to take a gig at Gallon Hall Brewing as their head brewer.
I've been there. Yes.
You really
I went there funnily enough, you know, Barrel of Monks in Boca?
Yeah.
So Kevin's been on the pod like 4 times. He's the man.
Really?
And yeah, I connected with him, longer story, on this website that like matches podcast hosts with guests. And he was just like, I went and saw him. I was in Miami for a month. That's why I was asking where Dogfish was. Hey, pup, I respect it. And Kevin was like, we went past Orlando on the way when we were going back to Canada, because we drive down. And when we went to Orlando, he said Gatlin Hall. So we went straight to Gatlin Hall. We went to Ellipsis, which ended up closing. And Gatlin Hall was fire. It was so good. And it was in this, like, unassuming plaza type of thing.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Kevin, they gave us a lot of love, and I was kind of surprised that, like, I always felt like we were a little bit under the radar over there just because it was unassuming, and we didn't have a lot to work with, honestly.
Okay.
We were proud of the product we were making. We won a World Beer Cup award. We won a GABF medal for German lagers and stuff like that. And on just a 10 barrel, like, very manual system, not a whole lot of budget kind of thing. So it was punk rock, and we were proud of it and everything. And Kevin recognized that. And that's a little bit of a callback. That's cool.
That's sick. I'll text him after this and be like, I wasn't going to assume you guys know each other, but
yeah, really cool too. Actually, the first home state, quote unquote home state beer that was ever brewed was actually a collaboration brewed at Gallon Hall.
Oh yeah,
that we did together, like a rice lager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was that before?
That was before we opened.
Before you opened, and before Tyler joined the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sick. That's perfect.
We brewed it because we had we were in construction at the time, and we wanted to showcase kind of what we're going to do at this new brewery at I think it was called Flavor Fest, which is like the local Hamlin area kind of taste of the neighborhood. And so we showed up with a beer that we did in collaboration with Gatlin Hall.
Okay.
And that was kind of the our community's first look and first taste of any beer from home state.
That's a good one too. We've talked about rebrewing that collaboration before.
I love that.
But yeah, just the Gallon Hall for a couple of years, and I was at like an in-between spot at this place called Deadwards. But then eventually Marco, just home state, looking to expand and kind of like, natural progression. He's like, hey, I think I have an opening for you. It'd be really cool if we could finally like work together. And I think it's something we've always like really wanted to do. So it made a lot of sense at the time, perfect space. And now I'm on board with these guys since April, May, as brewery operations manager. And then we're pretty much just tag teaming all the production stuff, and it frees Mark up a little bit to do more operations and big picture stuff.
Dude, that's awesome. That's you guys got some serious stories. Like, before we even get more into the brewery, just got a couple just to touch on some of those the backstory, because you're both on some like cool ass shit. So this is for both of you. Being that, Tyler, you're at Cigar City, which is obviously one of the. It's not the biggest in Florida, is it? I think Funky Buddha was.
No disrespect to Funky Buddha, because they're awesome. I mean, I'm super biased, so you can't really ask me. Sorry, Funky Buddha, but for me, Cigar City is definitely the most like culturally significant.
For sure,
brewery in Florida.
No disagreement.
I don't know about what Barrelage would say, but I'd imagine like Cigar City. No shots fired or whatever, right? But,
no shots fired here. Who's the biggest brewery in Florida?
Yuengling, technically.
Oh, Yuengling. Okay, so aside from them, because they're bigger than everybody.
Yeah, the biggest craft brewery.
Yeah, bigger than Sam Adams, right?
Bigger than Sam Adams. Yeah.
So I guess my point was, you were there, Tyler. Marco, you were at both Goose Island and Wicked Weed. But so breweries that were like, I guess all of them are kind of different scale. But the first thing I was thinking was like, I wonder if you guys had, being that like, you know, obviously you were probably at Goose Island there, Marco, before they got bought or after.
So the purchase was in 2011.
Okay.
And so
You were,
it was a wild time, man. Yeah, that was
I
like
bet
months ago, you know.
people would have been vexed. And you were Wicked Weed probably around the same time too, right? Because people were pissed.
Yeah, so
Furious.
was purchased we purchased 6 months after I worked.
Okay, all right. So my main question really around those jobs were like, did those jobs teach you guys like process at all? Because I always find that brewers who work at like those larger breweries, maybe if you're fucking pumping out Highlight or like you're pumping out the Honkers Ale or some shit, that like you just like it might not be the same thing day in day out, but you're getting that thing about process, about you cannot deviate from these things because you got to make your numbers, and that sort of makes you a better brewer when it comes to maybe the fun stuff. Like, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think both of us really, the unique aspect of our experience there at these bigger breweries is that, you know, for me at Goose Island, you know, I was not in production. I was just like in the brew pub. But
Right.
like Revolution Brewing, they, you know, a year after,
too.
yeah, they opened this big production brewery, and I worked there for a little bit at the beginning, but really I kind of settled into a brew pub like brewer position. And so what's cool is you know, you get to experience the ride of working for this big company whilst still, you know, working on a small scale system and doing like the experimental one-offs and the seasonals and stuff like that, not having to brew, you know, the same beers every day. So that really, I think, was super valuable for me in my career, because you got to experience all these different beer styles and all these different processes and ingredients that we're working with, you know, as opposed to like a large scale production position where you're just kind of making the same stuff all over and over again. So I wouldn't trade that for the world. Even, you know, while I was at Wicked Weed and they were about to open the big production brewery, you know, they kind of asked, "Hey, do you want to do that?" Oh, like, not at all. It's cool, you know, it'd be a great experience. But I've always just been a fan of, you know, the freedom to experiment and try out new stuff and, you know, play with different ingredients and just make beers that you really, you know, can get excited about and get your, you know, your customers and your drinkers excited about. So yeah, and, you know, I think Tyler kind of had a similar journey through the places that he worked.
Yeah. Would you say, okay, so it sounds like it's probably not so much process, but maybe the opposite of that, where it's like the exposure to different styles. So then, Tyler, you said the Cigar City Brew Pub, so maybe similar situation to Marco, where you're doing a whole bunch of everything as opposed to pumping out Highlight all day?
Well, I was just serving tables up there and serving tables at Cigar City Brew Pub, and I was picking the brewer there at the time, Tim Ogden, who's one of my like early influences and everything like that. Tim's a cool guy. But then, yeah, Cigar City, man, we had such a good team at the time. I came on pretty shortly after the first buyout when Kanarchy got in there. But honestly, like the brewing team over there is always, even today, there's a lot of great guys over there. A lot of the guys I learned under, but just a really good group of guys. Wayne Wombles, total like theory nerd. Sean Sasser, Madison Rowan, Mark LaPierre, all like some of the best teachers I could possibly get. So there was SOPs put in place and everything like that, and so many things I picked up from those guys. But
well, when you were working at Cigar City, like in the production side, you were doing like the R&D stuff.
Well, I did both. And so they had two brew houses when I worked there. They had a 30-barrel system that, you're mostly pumping out Highlight, Maduro, Florida Cracker all the time. And I trained on that for like a year or so.
Let me tame the beast.
Yeah, tame the beast. Maybe that's the episode name.
See, look, I'm in shorts.
Yeah, I know. Don't rub it in, bro.
But they kind of saw I really had a knack for brewing, and I liked doing like the really small batch stuff. So they also had a 15-barrel side that all like the one-offs, kind of all the in-house releases, the cans and stuff got produce from. So I eventually got to kind of do that, and man, that was like very fulfilling for me.
I bet.
Because I still got to do settle work at like this huge, like 40,000 barrels a year brewery. But, 4 days a week, I was brewing 15 barrels of hazy IPA when that was like really popping off, different fruited sours and all like the one-off stuff that was getting its like own can release. So all the stuff that was getting like the crazy, like untapped reviews, I could like plug into that and be like, I made that. Like I did everything for those ones. So
that's sick.
I had the coolest job at Cigar City for a year or two there.
Okay. So then between you guys, it really like got a breadth of experience that like allows you to sort of bring all of that. Like even if you're a Gatlin Hall and you're doing those Crispies, that's what Kevin told me. And I think I had to check Pilsner and it was fantastic. Like I was really impressed. And then you're at Cigar City doing that crazy stuff. And then Marka, you're at Revolution, you're a Wicked Weed Learn. So you guys kind of like between you have a pretty insane repertoire of like what you're able to pump out of home state, really, with all of that experience. And is that fair? Does that contribute to what you guys are able to do?
Big time, yeah. We would say every brewery, right? Every brewery that exists, say we brew quality beer, like that's our main focus. And it's always like in my mind, anyways, I'm always like, do you though? Is it? And without trying to sound arrogant, it's just for me. It's you got to make sure that the liquid is tasting as best as it can. Sometimes breweries don't, and that's okay. That's everyone's out there doing their thing, trying to make a buck. But our whole thing at Homestay is, man, we're true beer lovers, and we want beer to quality is like one of our absolute most important, concern. From there, it's like hopefully we make money too. That's a business. That's
a bit of a plus side.
Yeah,
I love it. Let's pause the story for a sec because it's time for next beers, boys. What are we vibing off?
Cat beer?
Let's go to Gatos. So the next beer is going to be My Gatos, which is quickly becoming kind of like a flagship, if you will. Definitely our number one beer in distro right now.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So My Gatos, the name is kind of like a Spanglish term. Growing up working in kitchens and stuff, you hear a lot of just, I'm of Mexican descent. And so you get a lot of these like cooks that just use a lot of, dirty language, but
Chingar. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. One of the funniest phrases I ever picked up from a kitchen was "Oh my gatos," which is just a way of saying "Oh my god."
Is it like a clean version or something? Is that like "Oh my gosh," or is it just funny?
Yeah, pretty much. Or it's just like a cute Spanglish version of it, if you will.
I like it.
Yeah. So with this beer, we wanted it to be. We call it a Florida-inspired IPA. It's hit with Amarillo, Sabro, and Citra. And so you get that citrus characteristic. You get that kind of tropical fruit note, a little bit of coconut, a little bit of like that cedar kind of woody characteristic that you get from Sabro as well. So it's meant to be really easy drinking, kind of light drinking IPA, if you will, that is meant to be drank in the Florida sun,
I was going to ask, what is a Florida-inspired IPA? Is it like it's given Westy, but
it's definitely like a West Coast style, if you will, but without that sharp bite. It's more balanced.
Gotcha.
And really the Florida inspiration just comes from those like kind of like citrus and coconut notes, and kind of earthiness also that you get, like slight earthy kind of woody characteristic that you get from Sabro as well.
Gotcha. Here for it, gentlemen. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, man.
Get that in you. Oh shit, yeah. Like one of the things that, dude, I fucking love West Coast IPAs. I wasn't sure if this was a Westy or a
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a West Coast IPA, but it's kind of like,
what would you call it? American?
West Coast inspiration. I mean, just
Yeah.
American IPA. Almost like it has a little bit of influence, I think, from a lot of the IPAs that I appreciated brewing when I was kind of coming through my career. And so there's almost this Midwestern kind of, how do I describe it? Like a Midwestern IPA that is like almost like Two Hearted, right? The classic quintessential, like everyone loves Two Hearted. It has a little bit of body to it. It's not super bone dry and like super bitter like a West Coast is, you know. I've always just kind of seen that like that's what a like classic American IPA is, and so we're kind of playing off of those like balanced notes of, you know, not too dry, not too bitter, not too sweet, just kind of everything's in balance. It just feels right.
I totally agree. This is it's like it's quickly become like myself and my co-host. I do all the American ones, but he co-hosts the other ones. But him and I are big fans of Westies, and I feel American IPA / West Coast IPAs, as opposed to like Haze. Like obviously Haze is phenomenal. It's just like when you, maybe it's different in Florida, but like out here, it's not incredibly common to find a West Coast IPA. Like some, or an American IPA. Sorry, I'm generalizing when I say that. I just mean like a more clear IPA that's bitter, like how it used to be. Like you said, like the shit that you guys came up brewing at Cigar City and on around, like that type IPA. And I feel like there's not a drinking session that I have that I don't have one. I make sure I always break up the Haze with one. I just find them like, it's so cool. And this is like definitely, I see what you mean. It's not like a straight Westie because it's not this like tongue ripping, piney resinous like bomb, right? It's like, it's smooth and sweet. Exactly what you said. It's definitely got a lot of sweetness, but not, when I say a lot, sorry, like it's not, the sweetness is perfectly balances out everything else with the tropical fruit vibes. It's still got that enough bitterness to let you know that this isn't a New England IPA, but it's like, it's still juicy. And I'm like, I see what you mean about that woody kind of character from the Sabro. This is fantastic, boys. When did you guys first do this one? Has this been around?
This was actually the first beer that we ever produced. And
in-house,
you know,
oh my god,
when we just had like our brewing system, we actually didn't remember our occupancy. We just kind of rolled in and started brewing. While we were still. Yeah,
everything was above board.
They're not
this can't be used as evidence in the.
They're not going to come after us.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Still brewing this beer while we were under construction, you know, kind of thing. Just so that we can make sure that we had some beer when we opened. But no, this was the very first, and honestly, we dial it in every time we're kind of tasting and doing our kind of QA. We there's definitely been kind of, some changes to this beer, but for the most part, it's like pretty straightforward. Not a lot has changed. We've made some kind of like
micro
tweaks, if you will. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we're just constantly always striving to make it better and better. And, with Tyler on board, it's definitely great to have just like a new perspective of how can we take this beer that we think is already tasting great and make it better. That's kind of what we're both always constantly striving for and collaborating on.
I love it. Just to confirm again, Sabro, Citra, and
Amarillo.
The
bulk of it's Amarillo. That's like what's doing the real heavy lifting in this beer for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that. It's that dank citrusy.
Orange rind.
Yeah.
The Sabro is pretty Sabro inserts itself anytime you use it. So you definitely, the coconut kind of like popsicle stick wood kind of like shines in there. But yeah, it's the hot bill is mostly Amarillo in the cooler.
That totally adds up. And even as you were sort of saying the coconut, I even kind of forgot for a second there that Sabro's coconut because I wasn't getting it. And then as you said it, I'm like, it's almost like in the lingering aftertaste, you'll smack your tongue up on the roof of your mouth and you're like, oh, there she is. I'm
glad you said that because that's what we're trying to nail in.
Honestly, a lot of the beers that I would kind of produce throughout some of the jobs that I've had, it's always I'm always trying to hit those subtle notes. Mm-hmm. I think I'm just a huge fan of subtlety, where even with big IPAs and stuff like that, I love just kind of those layered flavors that you get that you really have to think about sometimes, and you have to have someone needs to tell you, hey, this, and you're like, oh shit,
there it is. Totally. And I was thinking as well, I don't really recall many American or West Coast IPAs with Sabro. little uncommon. I feel like it's almost exclusively in haze from memory, at least. I feel like this works well, and I think it's because of that subtlety. I feel like if this was like a coconutty thing, it would probably be a little odd. But now you're saying it's driven by Amarillo, and then
Yeah.
you got you got a little pinch of that coconut in there. It's like it's kind of money. It's like a nice little like addition to it that gives that a little rounded little thing going on. This is sick, boys. I love it. Is a Florida is it a thing like Florida? I know you think Florida inspired or not like a Florida IPA. Like is it a or is this something the home state does? It's not like a thing that it's common out there.
We're not the first to make a quote unquote Florida
Okay.
IPA or Florida inspired IPA.
Gotcha.
I've definitely seen them around. Really, it's just the idea of trying to tie in, home state. My partner, like I said, my partner Colin grew up 50 minutes away from where the brewery is. Florida is his home state. It is also kind of a double entendre of when you come into our tap room, you're kind of feeling that like home state of mind is what we say. Which is like when you're here, almost like that Olive Garden, like when you're here, your family. But it's a very inviting tap room. You come in, there's it just kind of has like a warm feel. There is a couple areas that are like kind of couch, like living room vibes.
Cool.
We also partner with a coffee shop turned roaster called Filigree Coffee, and they've been in our tap room since we opened as well. To create kind of like this coffee shop vibe when our tap room first opens, and so it's really cool because it creates this vibe where people come in, they start working on a lot of people who work remote come in, sit in the coffee shop, will work on their computers and stuff, have a coffee, and then when lunchtime comes around when we open, then they're ready for a bite to eat, a beer, and it's kind of like this symbiotic relationship, and we call it work from home state because it's we play off of that to try to get people to come in and just kind of be there once we open our doors because we already have that coffee shop around.
So smart. I'm as you're doing it, I'm looking through like the Google pictures that people are putting up. It's a beautiful tap room, guys. Like this is gorgeous. And you're right. Like I almost like coffee more than I like beer. And Third Wave Cafe, like finally, I'm from where Third Wave's from in Melbourne, but I only got into it in Canada. And as I'm sort of traveling, I always find the Third Wave cafes everywhere. And it's not very common that you would see one in like sharing a space with a brewery or breweries offering like high quality coffee. And I think that's like, it's so smart because it's like essentially what you're saying, you're opening earlier, you're leveraging the space so that people can come in and work and like just, it might as well be a cafe exclusively. And then, like you said, lunchtime comes in, boom, beers are pouring, you got some food options, but at least like you're making money off the times where you could have just been shut. And now you're giving people like you said, that home state of mind type of thing or a little place to come and hang out or work or whatever it is you want to do. I love that shit. I love it. It's so entrepreneurial. It's beautiful.
It's really nice too because we have just such a good partnership with those guys at Coffee and Ethan Lenz, who's the founder of Filigree. Has recently just kind of come into the production space in terms of like that. Now they're roasting their own coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about roast or craft coffee, these guys are like such perfectionists. They from the presentation to the roast, the flavor profiles in some of the coffee that they produce is bananas. In like literally,
literally.
Some of it is very fruity. Like I learned a lot from just having these guys working alongside us in our tap room in terms of coffee as a craft beverage, and it's just amazing beverage that it's hard for me to find better. Now I'm kind of like a coffee snob because of them.
I wouldn't say I'm a coffee snob. I love coffee and drink it multiple times a day, but I'll just nerd out with Ethan and those guys just because I love that brand of nerdiness where you're just like so devoted to your craft. And those guys are that. It reminds me a lot of brewers I've met myself. Like when I was really, really getting into brewing beer, like Filigree is a hidden gem in Orlando. It's as far as just like quality, it's one of the top places in the city. And I'm not just saying that because they share a space with us, but shout out to Ethan and those guys.
Hell yeah, I'm on their Instagram as you're cruising. Like because whenever we travel, like having good coffee is so essential. And the beautiful thing about coffee or third wave cafes is they always have like things that are the same. Doesn't matter where in the world you go. Like they always have plants. They always have like exposed metal. They usually have exposed brick, often like natural wood, and then of course the latte art and stuff like that, and the beautiful photos. Like their Instagram is exceptional, and these look like this is a place that I would go out of my way to go to. This looks insane.
What's really cool too is that they've hosted a handful of like latte art throwdowns.
Okay.
With that, but you know, where baristas come in and it's a style.
Contests. Yeah.
Really, that's been a lot of fun to witness. Wow,
that's sick. I love that it's got you both into coffee a little more, and like you said, Tyler, with like getting that level of nerdery, I respect it immensely as well, because it's like, you know, dedication to craft, but also like the coffee shit is a whole other level, man. When I hear these guys talk, I have no idea what the hell, like the different origins and the different ways of where honey wash and natural wash and like fuck, man, like it's a lot.
I'm into anyone who's passionate about anything to that level, but it's like adjacent enough to brewing beer where it's like I can relate more. But they're just passionate guys, and I feel like it's like not too dissimilar to like what I'm into. So in a lot of ways, you know.
Totally, it definitely aligns. So with I'm just kind of skipping ahead. I know we're trying to go through home state there, but have you guys used any of their beans in beer?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we brewed one. We're actually on the schedule for next week. It's a coffee blonde ale called Boom Roasted. We do it. I guess it's like a seasonal, like a one-off release every year now. But just
vanilla coffee blonde. Yeah,
vanilla coffee blonde.
Nice. But yeah, just a blonde ale, lightly, very very lightly hopped, and then some vanilla beans, and then some some Filigree coffee beans.
Hell yeah, dude. Have you guys ever chucked it in a stout or a brown ale or anything like that? Porter?
I don't think we've ever done anything with Filigree and like a brown. We've done something with another coffee spot locally, just because, you know, we've got a lot of friends and stuff like that.
Of course, yeah.
Actually, my favorite Filigree beer that we've done, this is actually before Tyler came on, was
another one.
A Dunkelweizen.
Oh, I lied then.
Yeah.
Weizen with.
So, you know, dark like Hefeweizen with this like unwashed blend of beans that they gave us. It was so good. The beer was called Sex Appeal because of the banana notes. They had like, you know, the banana kind of characteristics from the Weizen yeast, and I forget the name of the coffee that we used at the time, but it was something to do. It was like sexy, so we're like, yeah, let's call it Sex Appeal, like a banana.
Oh, appeal! I get it. That's awesome. That's sick, boy.
Throw back to the banana you were talking about.
That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's right.
Circle. Look at this. 48 minutes in, we're already bringing it back. I love it. This is really cool. That's like a really fun partnership. I feel like that's like just elevates a space. Obviously inspires you guys as well. Even if it's, you know, directly working with the product, but just seeing, like you're saying, the passion and just the way that coffee can, you know, it might just inspire something. I love that. That's so sick. So then bringing it back to when you said it was February 2022, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Opened? Yep. When you guys started at Home State, what was the intention as far as the offerings? Like what style did you have? Like, all right, we're going to do these styles, or this is what's like the USP as such?
Yeah. So we knew we wanted to be kind of lager forward.
Okay.
And like beer, we call it beer flavored beer. You know, it's not the first time we've heard that. You know, we wanted to make sure that we stay true to kind of what we love in beer, whilst also still kind of being open-minded enough to say, hey man, you know, just because it's not my bag doesn't mean other people might not enjoy a beer that like with you know, different fruits and spices and stuff, and sours and stuff like that. So we on our, you know, when you come into our tap room, we generally have a pretty well-rounded selection of beers on draft that will range from, you know, lagers to kind of like West Coast IPAs. We'll always have at least a hazy IPA, a sour beer with fruit in it, or something like that. scratching those itches of kind of like the quote unquote hype beers that people are after. But we also have saisons. We also have doppelbocks, and we focus on trying to do a lot of like non-hazy IPAs and American styles or West Coast double IPAs and stuff like that. So it's a pretty good selection, but our heart and soul goes into lagers as well as like more of the West Coast style IPAs, if you will.
Okay. Was that something that you guys just wanted to do because that's what you're into, or is that like once again, I was only in Miami for like a month, and I got to Orlando, and that was kind of it. So I was trying to discover. We're actually going back in February. We're going to be in Fort Lauderdale for a month, so hopefully I'll be able to swing by it and come see you guys. But trying to get more of a vibe of what's going on, is that a more Florida thing? Because if you think from people who aren't there, we would think, oh, Florida, oh, it's like a Caribbean island or something where it's like hot all the time. So do you want, but then I heard the pastry stouts were invented, 13, 15% stouts were invented in Florida. So it's like, is these lighter approaches to styles, not as heavy a beers with the oats and all that crazy shit, like haze or whatever, the American / Westies and lagers, are they more of a Florida thing, or is that kind of like, we just wanted to do that shit because we like it?
I've honestly, I don't know if Marco or people will agree with me, but I've always felt like Floridians are somewhat immune to I'm not saying everyone, so don't bite my head off, but for the most part, immune to the entire it's 100 degrees. I want to drink this, or it's really cold. That's there, but especially back in the day, everyone was drinking these 17 plated finishing gravity stouts and in the middle of summer, and just you guys are out of your mind kind of deal. So
yeah, no, from my experience in Florida, I would agree.
They'll drink it anything anywhere.
When I was in Miami, the highest selling beer in the tap room was a 10% double IPA. That in the middle of summer, you're like, what? Why are you guys out here drinking this right now? It hurts.
It's painful.
I found early on moving here that the beer drinkers in Florida at the time, anyways, were really looking for big, bold flavors and things different, and things were as far away from your typical.
We get it.
A little crazy. She's going a little crazy.
That's all right. She's cool.
Little Spinderella over there. So
that's her name?
She runs the house. Yeah.
That is awesome. The kids won't know what the hell that means, but
well, for the ones that know, if you know,
for the ones that know, you know. That's very good. That's random. I like that.
Anyhow, so yeah, it's just interesting to learn. It was dumbfounding to me, moving down here from a colder climate. you guys just want 13%, pastry stouts and sours that you want to chew on, like puree and stuff like that.
Well, what probably in part is that we don't really have proper seasons, any kind of especially winter. You kind of have 3 variations of summer, and then a slightly lighter summer. But then it's only
a slightly lighter summer.
it's 3. It's little pops.
Sounds awesome.
A cold front comes through, or a weekend or something like that, but it's mostly the same. It's right. 20 degrees, 30 degrees all year long. Honestly, it's between, if you're lucky, 70 to 100, but usually 80 degrees to 145 weeks out of the year, right? So,
I mean, that's pretty. Where I'm from, it's more like London weather, and then moving to Canada, it's fucking brick, and it's. Right now, it's being soft. Thank God. Shout out to global warming. It's been beautiful, but we're just now. So that's why we booked it. We booked it a couple of days ago. We're just I'm done with this shit, bro. I can't fucking do it. I'm not from this. I'm not built for this. What I was thinking as you guys were talking is Floridians drinking 15% stouts are like those dudes we were talking about when it's 30 degrees Celsius and they're wearing a hoodie and sweatpants, or these insane Quebec people who are wearing a t-shirt and shorts and it's minus 20. I'm not. I've seen this. They're crazy. I guess in Minnesota, you guys would have seen that in Illinois, because it's kind of Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota. It's all basically Canada as far as the weather. We're the same. People are crazy. I don't they must be just cold blooded as hell, and they're just whatever.
No, I've heard a rumor that Floridians have a stereotype of being a little a neurotypical, right? Like they're a little crazy, I think. So
I didn't see it. A little bit. Tell me about that.
What is it called? Florida man.
Florida, yeah.
Florida man. It kind of rings a bell. I didn't see any of that when we were in Miami. People up here were just like, "You went to Miami? Would you go there for that long?" Like, dude, it was fucking normal. It was like,
Miami's not.
Oh, yeah.
It's different, right? It was like Toronto to me. Like,
It
it
is
was
It's different, but it's like its own thing for sure.
okay. What's more? Where would I find the Florida man?
I mean, don't get me wrong, they're everywhere,
there are Florida men in Miami,
but just
for sure.
20 miles out of city limits, kind of thing. If you go to Tampa, Jacksonville, Miami, if you're like downtown, you'll be convinced it's normal, just metropolitan area. But then go 20 miles out of town or whatever, just knock on the first door and you'll meet
You mean Florida man? Well, this time we thought Fort Lauderdale would be the move. Just decided to do something different. We were trying to go Tampa, and it was just it wasn't hitting. It wasn't really. I don't know if it was because it was so soon after the hurricane and stuff. There wasn't really like many properties to get for a month. It was like you want something a little comfortable and nice and whatever. But we found like a sick.
And you should make it a point to get out.
When's the next time you're planning on coming down to Florida?
February 1st to March 1st.
Okay, yeah, man. Hey,
So yeah, we're driving down. We bring the pup. So cool. we always drive because then you can check out some cool shit on the way down and stuff. We're gonna go past Jacksonville because we haven't been there before, so we're gonna check that out. But 100% on the way back, we're gonna go to Tampa for a few days and then back to Savannah because it's
an hour away from Orlando at that point.
Yeah, how far are you from there?
Yeah, we're from home state. It's like an hour and 15 to get to Tampa.
Is that it? Oh, dude. Oh, then we'll come from Tampa and we'll go on there on the way to Savannah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yes. Oh, we'll keep in touch because I'm already like these two beers. Honestly, boys, I'm not gassing you up, but this is fantastic. Like this IPA is so fucking good. I'm super impressed. Like this is some really
honestly, really. I'll say that I moved to Orlando in I think 2018, and since then there's right around that same time a couple breweries opened up. That have really kind of shaped, like Orlando into a new kind of mindset of, hey, this is actually a beer town too. And then there's, this other brewery, Red Light, that's been around for, I think, 16 years or something.
Okay.
Then Red Light's absolutely my favorite brewery in Orlando. There's really good beers in here. We've got buddies that opened up Sideward Brewing, Tactical Brewing, and, all doing different things.
I know Tactical. I've had some of their stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really cool, like, tight-knit community down here as well. We're all buddies. We all hang out. We have Orlando Beer Week coming up in January, so you'll just miss it. But a lot of cool events happening throughout the week as well. And Tactical is putting on Fated Kingdom, which is like a huge beer festival that breweries come out from across the country to showcase. So Orlando's definitely on the map now, probably.
Yeah.
Since I don't know when the last time you came to Orlando was, but
May last year.
Yeah. So there's definitely some good stuff down here for sure.
Hell yeah! I think you need some time to soak it up. We just did, like cruising back to Canada. We just did like an overnighter and just made sure we only checked, like I said, Gatlin Hole and Ellipsis, which I heard closed like a couple months after we left, we visited. Which, man, I feel like it's almost like every day I'm checking my feed on. There's like,
it's nice to see for sure.
It's a rough time. We won't dwell on that, but okay. So we're talking about the beers, the intention behind Home State and what you guys were trying to do. So when you guys opened, what did you open with? Like which beers and which styles did you open with?
Yeah, so we had My Gatos, which is the IPA. We had Apparition, which is a rye saison that is one of my favorite beers that we put on. I love saisons. I love farmhouse styles. It kind of is that kind of rustic, saison. We had this one beer that we brewed that we haven't brewed since, to tell you the truth. I think it was called P21C. And that was a tangerine, like, wheat pale ale, if I'm not mistaken. But we went to one of the local citrus farms, and I had my partner go out, and his mom and dad helped them pick a ton of tangerines just for the peels. And so we jumped that in. it was really just kind of like a last minute, like, hey, I can try to squeeze them in another beer before we open. And then we did like a Zwickel beer, which was actually, one of the beers we have in our lineup today is Adults Are Talking, another one of our kind of flagship. It's not like a Pilsner. This was just kind of like a young, unfiltered version, unclarified version of that same beer, just so we can kind of get open and at least have a lager on draft. But those were the main three, and I feel like there was another one, but I can't remember. Oh, that was the four: Apparition, P21C,
the Zwickel, and this,
and then My Gatos. Yeah. P21C also is like a Pantone color code for the Nickelodeon orange. We weren't like the OG days of Orlando kind of fandom in like the Nickelodeon stuff. And one of my partners, Lexi, she had worked for Disney as an engineer and stuff, and was a huge '90s fan of just '90s folklore and '90s pop culture.
So it made sense.
Yeah,
give a little reference in there.
Pretty heavy in naming that beer.
That's sick. That's awesome. I love that. So we're at an hour. Let's go next one.
Oh man, we opened an hour. All right,
bread beer.
Let's go with La Segunda. Yeah.
Drink it.
So
crispy time. Love it.
Honestly, this is one of my favorite lagers that we've produced, I think, ever at Home State. And yeah, you're a little blurry there, but
we got it.
So La Segunda is a bakery in Tampa, and so Tyler grew up in Tampa. I don't know if you want to just kind of give a little like what does that bakery mean? That's from a Tampa resident.
Oh man. So have you ever had a Cuban sandwich before? Have you heard of a Cuban sandwich?
I have, and I'm pretty sure I've had one. Not sure how authentic it is, but
yeah,
I know what you're talking about. So like the salami type shit in it.
And we do, yeah. So we do have a Cuban sandwich in our tap room on our menu.
Well, a lot of people don't even know what that is.
Yeah. And there's like a couple versions of it too.
Yeah, you could. So a Cuban sandwich, you could find. I think you could find it more and more traveling now, but like a lot of people like have no idea what that is. It's kind of a style or it's a sandwich that like originated in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The biggest thing is Cuban bread, which is kind of like French bread if you've never had it, but a little softer on the inside. But it has like the crisp, kind of like buttery thing going on.
Is it like an Italian focaccia a little bit, or not quite?
What's that?
Like, is it like an Italian focaccia bread?
I don't know if I've ever had focaccia bread before. Or at least
I've had the square one. They're like square, and they're kind of like fluffy in the middle, and a little.
Nothing like focaccia. Focaccia is like way more airy.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
French bread's
its own thing.
I'd say.
Yeah, like a French baguette. It's the closest.
Or like
French baguette. So it's like tight, thick,
like hard on the outside.
Totally get it.
Is like soft on the outside.
It's got the little layer of crunch.
But you make that cooking,
not
the bread itself.
But yeah, after you press it, right? Yeah, that's true.
More like Italian bread, like an Italian loaf.
We can go on and on.
Anyway,
so
it's a bread podcast now.
So yeah, La Segunda opened up in the 1800s, I want to say, or like early 1900s. When was it?
Jesus, really?
They produce more Cuban bread than anyone in the world, in the United States at least.
Yeah, we need to fact check that.
Yeah, fact check. It's Cuban bread, man. But yeah, man, it's a very regional thing. When I was growing up, this bakery,
La Segunda.
La Segunda, yeah.
You're correct. You did not lie.
Nice.
So if you were making Cuban sandwiches right in Tampa, you were using La Segunda bread. I had a deli right down the road from where I grew up, and I probably had like Cuban sandwiches 3-4 times a week. Just
wow, is that serious, eh?
Oh yeah, man. Marco told me we were doing this collab, and it didn't really click or whatever. I even remember when I moved to Orlando, I went to like even just 100 miles down the road, I went to like 3 or 4 different places before I like found one that was like kind of as good as the ones we do in Tampa or whatever.
The rest of the ingredients make sense. Like definitely make a difference.
It's all about the bread.
Like roasted pork makes a difference. But if you're not using the right bread, you're just shooting yourself in the foot if you're trying to make a Cuban sandwich.
A lot of places use French bread, and it's just something different. It's not bad, but it's so simple too. It's so easy to mess up. It's funny. It's obviously I have big opinions about it, but anyways, we got.
I'll add in a funny quip. When we first opened our kitchen, and the Cuban sandwich was like a staple in our menu. Tyler came to visit, and I had actually pulled out. I remember pulling out the box from La Segunda, showing him look, dude, this is real.
We got the real shit.
We're not fucking around here.
Hey man, I need that Tampa respect. I get it.
So he said we're doing a collaboration with these guys. We did a pre-prohibition lager, which these guys opened up during prohibition. That was kind of a happy mistake, I think.
Yeah.
But we threw 50 pounds of Cuban bread in the mash tun. We didn't. They didn't add.
They made a batch of Cuban bread because typically it's made with lard. But we asked them to, pull the fat out of it.
Is that what it was? The short they got rid of all the shortening. Too.
Yeah. They actually stopped using lard a while back. They used a vegetable shortening now. This specific.
Okay.
Right.
So 50 pounds in the mash.
50 pounds of bread. You imagine how light bread is. That's a lot of bread.
That's a lot of bread.
No, it was really cool because it's still a starch, and what's cool is that in the mash it's gelatinized and everything.
It was unrecognizable when we grained out. But he was telling me about it. We're gonna do it, and he was excited for me. And I don't know why. It wasn't registering. But then Brew Day, two of their guys showed up, and one of them was wearing a Bucks jersey or something like that. I'm a big Bucks fan, and I got hit in the face with nostalgia. And we were cutting and eating this bread at the same time, getting ready to throw it into the mash. And I was just smiling ear to ear. So
yeah, it's now it hit.
Yeah. I was man, this is the first beer ever brewed with La Segunda Cuban bread. So not the first beer ever brewed with anyone, but yeah, it's a cool backstory on this.
Oh, with the actual bread in it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's even cooler, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Cheers to Tampa. Prost. Fantastic. Oh wow. And this is 5.6 too.
Yeah, it's a big guy. Pretty high power, pretty bitter. It's a pre-pro lager, so it's just really, really girthy American lager, essentially, with a lot of 6-row corn in there.
Girthy.
Oh man,
that is
use that as a beer.
Bro, I've been reviewing beers since 2011. Not that I made anything. That is exceptional. I am absolutely using that in this review. Thank you, Tyler. Oh my fucking god.
Yeah.
Can you just? I'm so sorry to dwell on that. That is. Can you just explain girthy? Just it's big and rounded and
it's big and rounded
and veiny.
Frozen, thick, exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorry to dwell on that. Okay.
We're also drinking coquitos over here too.
I was gonna say we're not drinking milk like some weirdos.
No, I assumed it was something fun.
Marco's mom made us some coquito.
Hell yeah. Yes, okay, so it's girthy. Keep going. I cut you off. I'm sorry. That was fucking cold.
Well, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's a on paper pre-pro lager.
Yeah, man, I feel like you get this really kind of rustic grain characteristic.
Yeah.
6-row barley.
We decocted this one too, so it's got that extra grainy mallow.
Yeah, all of our lagers go through the decoction process, which really kind of accentuates that kind of malt, depth of malt characteristic.
This is so good. Yeah, honestly, you guys are fucking 3 for 3. These are fantastic and very different. It's cool. I like that we have the 3 lagers we have tonight because almost cutting between the other styles. This is very, very different to the Party Goblin. It's cool because it's such a larger ABV. Absolutely doesn't taste it, but it definitely has. I know I'm joking, but they're girthy. It's just it's a bigger body. It's a bigger bodied beard. It's just I'm gonna use that all the time now. It's on people. People can get mad.
Experience.
Is that the episode name?
Girth. Yeah.
Just girthy beer.
Girthy. No. Let's workshop that.
We'll workshop. We can talk about it. I don't want to get you guys. we still have a lot more. Once we get to the 6th beer, then we can be like, all right, that was good. because pre-prohibition lagers, from my experience, have typically been more closer to like that sort of like the domestic American lager with like that sort of more corny and kind of lighter, whereas this is very full-bodied, girthy, as some might say, and it's very there's a lot going on, but it's super crushable. So is that it's a pre-prohibition lager style, but what gives it the additional body? Is it the bread specifically, or is it the 6-row I see we have here and flake corn?
Yeah, it's definitely the 6-row. I mean, it definitely
6-row?
a little bit of that decoction process, but you know, it's kind of that balance of, you know, proper kind of finishing gravity where it's not like super dry. There's still got a little bit of like that residual kind of sweetness that lends to that girth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's good sweetness. There's a amount of bitterness in there too. That
Yeah, you know, I love it.
I'm fucking immature, but god damn it, that is amazing.
No, that's perfect.
Oh my god, dude,
So,
it's so good. It's so good.
What's really cool about this beer too is Tyler and I were kind of trying to determine what kind of beer we were going to make with La Segunda, because this was already kind of in motion and we didn't know what we were going to brew with them. Mm-hmm. And he and I sat in on a judging panel for our local homebrewing competition, or homebrew like club, and they do their like monthly meetups at our brewery, and they were hosting their like I don't know what's one of their competitions throughout the year. And so they asked us if we wanted to sit in and judge, and we hadn't done it for a while, so we did. And one of the best beers that were on the flight was this pre-prohibition lager. We were both just, man, this is really fucking good.
We should make one.
Why don't we make that? And then why don't we put Cuban bread in it?
Yeah.
You know.
If that's where it came from, I mean, that's even cooler. That it's like, yeah, it's cool. I looked it up and it said here that they opened in 1915.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
They're the highest volume producer of Cuban bread in the world and still uses hand labor for much of the process. That's on Wiki.
Yeah.
Which is, it's in Ybor City. Okay. Because that was where a lot of the Airbnbs were, and was like, okay, it sounds like Calle Ocho in Miami type thing, like that kind of vibe. Is that fair? Is it similar to that?
No.
Oh, no?
Marco says no. I've never been to, what was it called?
Calle Ocho.
The 8th Street. Yeah.
Ybor City's kind of one of a kind, to be honest. Like during the day, it looks kind of like quaint and like touristy, kind of like St. Augustine vibes. But like at night, when it's like showing its true colors, it's one of a kind. It's.
So don't stay there, is what you're saying?
No, I love it. I love
it.
You have to be into some Florida shit to really.
You have to be on some Florida shit.
I'll say this: like, if you want like a true like Florida man experience, go to Ybor City past like 9-10 p.m. on a weekend. That'll give you the vibe. Yeah.
Well, like only because we have a little dog that we take everywhere. We typically just go to breweries. We don't really go out too late, so we don't get to see like the wild shit like we would have.
No, but you don't even have to go in any place. You can take your dog through a walk.
Oh, I just go for a walk down the street, and you'd be like, "Oh, this is out of control." Okay.
Hide your kids, hide your wife, kind of situation, but like,
all right.
It's fun. It's fun, man.
Okay.
Where when I lived in Tampa, that's the neighborhood I worked in. Coppertail is in the same neighborhood as well, and so it's fun, man. It's a vibe.
I'm gonna note this down as well. The La Segunda Bakery. To check it out.
Your original cafe was in Ybor, but
now
they have like 3 or 4 cafes.
When was Prohibition?
In the 30s.
Yeah.
30s?
Yeah.
I was like the 20s, whatever. Okay.
So the 20s. Yeah, it ended in 1932.
The pre-prohibition, technically right. Look that up.
Prohibition was 1920 to 1933.
There it is.
Yeah. Pre-prohibition lager. Look at that.
Yeah. And then because this was done in 1915, so therefore pre-prohibition. So that's probably, is this, I guess I never really thought of it. Does that mean that this is a similar type of beer-ish to what folks were drinking before shit hit the fan?
I mean, that's what we like to say on paper, but hey, none of us were there, man.
It is unknowable, right?
I guess it's, I never really thought of it. like in reality, like what that actually means.
I think pre-prohibition. So what happens is, or at least what I've like read and seen in documentaries and stuff, is there was this huge influx of like European brewers that came in prior to Prohibition and built all these breweries and created this like flavor for European lager. Then Prohibition hit, and it lasted for 13 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, you had this whole new generation of drinkers that really didn't have access to beer anymore, and so the drinkers that were drinking during Prohibition really were drinking liquor. And so coming into when Prohibition ended, you had this generation of young adults who were just used to drinking cocktails and liquor drinks and didn't really know what beer was. And so when the breweries kind of started production back up, they didn't really know how to market to this new generation of drinkers. And so they kind of created like what's now known as like American light lager or Adjunct lager, made with corn and stuff that is like less flavorful and stuff like that. And that's kind of where like the death of, quality beer started in like, the 30s and 40s, and just, light, mass produced kind of, what was called yellow fizzy lager, became prominent until, probably the 70s when like, guys like Sierra Nevada came around, and started introducing these like European styles. But like, yeah, that's like where, and so when we're talking about pre-prohibition lager, it's like, real fucking lager, not just like for the kids who don't know how to drink anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how, legislative kind of things that come through and prohibition on alcohol turns a whole generation into, hey, now I drink differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty wild. It's interesting too how like even with like Gen Z now, a lot of the Gen Z people that came into legal drinking age came into it during COVID. And so it's like you have to kind of adjust to that because, they say like, they're not used to the traditional, like coming into a crowded bar and drinking like we used to. It's like we have to tailor it a little differently and kind of, it's almost a little bit like how we're kind of creating this like home space, because that's a little more comfortable for like a younger generation, but also feels good for us older guys too.
You are the second person to say that. We had a podcast with a brewery in Australia, and he said the exact same thing. He goes, think about when we in Australia, it's, I guess 21 in the States, in Australia it's 18. Here in Ontario it's 19, whatever. But when you become of age, what do? You go to the bars, you go to the pubs, you go to the clubs. That's what you do when you turn 18. But if you turned of age in 2020 through 2023, maybe you are not, for lack of a better word, indoctrinated into the
that's crazy,
the going out culture. I know that's exactly what you're saying, and I'd never thought about that before, and I was like, fuck, that's a good point. So then on top of all of the other financial, economical, cultural things that breweries are fighting against, now you've got the younger generation. That's really all, you've got to get them used to going out and then on top of not even like, they might not even be like there's not going out, then there's like some of them decline to even drink, or they'll be on seltzers or something that's like local. Weed's legal up here, so you could be getting into that bad boy, but some gummies or whatever. Like there's way more competitors
for sure
than there used to be. How do you guys feel about that?
It's interesting. It's definitely one of those things that we're, as a business, you look at and say, all right, well, if our the demographic that we're in is getting older and isn't coming out as much, we want to get these the younger generation to come out and enjoy our products. Like, well, we offer all kinds of stuff in our tap room. It's not just beer. It's ciders, seltzers. It's NA beers, also as well as like RTDs, wine, what have you. We find that we have to have more than just beer in our tap room for people to like come out, because like, let's say, I'm a craft beer drinker, but my friend Tyler's like, I'm not really into beer. We want to make sure that we have something that everyone can have.
I hate beer, yeah.
I can tell.
Each of these days, honestly.
That beard tells me.
But yeah, but we're also, even with Home State, that's in terms of what we're producing, we're just doing beer now, but we're definitely looking into expansion of, hey, how can we pivot also and incorporate other products like RTDs, which, ready to drink, like premium cocktails. That's definitely something that we might, look into in the near future and try to kind of dip our toes into and see how that goes. We'll and then there's also the whole THC realm, and in Florida, you can do like Delta 9 cocktail.
You can do Delta 9 now.
Yeah. So I can go to like a liquor store right now and pick up a THC seltzer for sure.
Can you get like gummies that are like Delta 9? Not Delta 8 bullshit.
I guess yeah. I went to like a gas station recently, and like they just had a bunch of like gummies and actual like little like buds of what I think was Delta 8, and they're like, yeah, they just had it behind the counter. Like, you can buy this stuff.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're just nugs. They're just nugs on display.
Little nugs.
Like, all right, that's where we're at. It's interesting. I didn't realize what the difference was. I had Delta 8. There was this one I got in Wynwood, and they were like this, like there was hey, come in the store. I'm like, yo, you got weed is legal? What the fuck? And I got those Mike Tyson ears. They're like, have you seen them shits?
No.
There's a packet of fucking like they're gummies, but they're shaped in Evander Hollywood's ears with a
with like a little bite missing.
The bite missing. And I didn't realize, wow, I was like, these aren't like that good. And then I found out later that Delta 8 is the synthetic version. Delta 9 is just like more directly related to THC.
So Delta 9, I think, is hemp derived.
Huh.
Yeah. And so if I'm no expert, but from what I've heard, that Delta 9 comes from the hemp side of the plant. And so it takes a lot more hemp to produce the THC, or to like extract it rather. Again, I'm not an expert. This is just my understanding of it.
Right, but at least you can get the drinks now. The drinks are pretty sweet.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Okay, I love that. One of the things that in the last couple of years of just being in the States a reasonable amount of time, I love that. And touching on what you're saying, that American breweries typically, more so than here, have those options, exactly what you're talking about. If we're getting a group of friends together, I'm like, hey, I'm the beer guy, I'd love to go to this brewery, but they've got wine, they've got liquor, they've got RTDs, they got some stuff for you. Like, I found that was so common. Like, my girlfriend, she was her idea to start this podcast, but then she kind of like chilled out on beer just for carb reasons. And everywhere we went, they always had like wine on tap, or cocktails on tap, or a can of wine, or something that was an alternative to beer. And I felt like that was the smartest business move in a world where, like, if any of the three of us were going to go somewhere, we're going to want to go to a brewery. But if we're going with a group, we're going to try. It'd be cool if they had some other options for other folks who aren't really into what we're into. And I think that's like, yeah, it's super smart that you guys, and I know there's like obviously legal red tape around a lot of, in every single state, province, country has different rules, but is it pretty chill for you guys to be able to offer all of that? Like, you got the good license for all that and all that stuff?
Yeah, down here in Florida, we have our tap room has what's called like a 2-cop license, which is like a beer license. But that incorporates also like spirits-based ready-to-drink cocktails. They just have to be under a specific like ABV. I think they have to be under 6% ABV. If we want
really
vodka-based cocktail that we offer in our tap room, it just has to be under that.
Soft. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
There's always something. Okay. That's interesting, but it's just very cool that that is something that most states allow you to at least sort of get into, to sort of give the business a bit more, particularly where you guys are at, like in that like Hamlin City. That is it Hamlin County City?
Hamlin Town Center is kind of
Town Center.
Yeah,
is the thing.
Like West is like the development we're in, and Winter Garden is technically the city.
Is the sub? Okay, that was what I was looking at. Winter. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
At least you're able to offer that, because obviously there's going to be some people who are stoked on the beer and, you know, going to learn something about different styles, all the different stuff you offer. But also, like, there's going to be people who aren't really into beer, but like it's the closest place and they want to just go support the closest place. And if you're able to offer that, I think that's awesome. And it's one of the things that is kind of going to separate breweries moving forward. I kind of feel like if you're not doing that, you're kind of putting yourself at a relatively serious disadvantage, I would argue at this point. I don't know how do you guys feel about that? Like, how important is a variance of offerings to the business?
Oh, it's huge for sure. You know, it's just not, craft beers or breweries in general just aren't where they were back when I was getting into it myself, you know, in like the 2000s. I feel like you can't survive these days unless you have a plethora of offerings, not just from, you know, what you produce yourself, but also just, you know, what you're just offering in a tap room that might come from elsewhere.
Yeah, it's very cool. And you guys said also you're doing food regularly as well. Like you got the Cuban sandwich.
Yeah, we have a small kitchen. It's kind of like a 100 square foot. You know, we kind of treat it like a sandwich shop. We're slowly kind of implementing new things. We just kind of started offering flatbreads because we got this like new like oven that's allowing us to do stuff like that.
Nice.
But you know, we're limited. The idea is we want people to come in for the vibe, the beverages. You know, if you want to stay and have a snack, do that so that you can soak that up and then keep drinking.
Hell yeah, which is important, right? Like I feel like food, from what I've heard, like people have told me, like food is truly the difference between people staying for 3 or 4 beers and staying for 1 or 2. Cool. And that's, you know, getting the average ticket price up, and that's a more of a business thing. But I think that's important to note, because it's, you know, if you're going to stick around, like for, you know, if I'm going to go somewhere, I'm like, I couldn't really be asked going anywhere else tonight. Like if I'm out of town, I'm like, oh, if you got food and you're cool with my dog being there, I'm like, oh fuck, you know, I'm gonna post up on the patio, crush some beers, have some Cuban sandwiches, get a girthy brew in me, you know.
Get a girthy brew. There it is. That's it. Girthy brews.
Girthy brews. I've written all of these down, boys. Like I put girthy beer. Let me put girthy brews. I got about like 7 different names for this episode so far. Every time you guys drop some gems, I got it.
After a couple beers, I expect a couple more beers. I expect a recap on these names.
Oh, I'll give you once we get off air. I'll give you everything here. It's good. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I've been like all I keep thinking of girthy brew. I've just been laughing in my head the whole fucking time. I'm trying not to. I don't know why.
Have you had many other like Florida breweries on the show yet, or
not a ton? We had obviously Kevin from Barrel of Monks, I think 3 times, and he came on for our other podcast we have called Business of Beer, which is like a different one where we talk about just he talked about the 3-tier system in detail. We had Kevin with Matt Manthe from Odd Breed in Pompano Beach.
Great.
Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, Odd Breed makes some good stuff.
Yes, he did some great stuff, and I was chatting with him the other day. So he's in Colorado now at another place.
That's what I was gonna say. I think that he had to like shut down his operation.
They had to shut down. He said the city kind of screwed him over a bit, and they didn't really deliver on. You good?
First good, yeah. We're good.
It happens to the best of us.
Very mild.
Yeah.
The other Florida brewery we've had Tripping Animals. We had one on from Tripping Animals, and my friend Tio from he's owns a brewery called Crowns and Hops in LA, and he knows a lot of people. So I've known him since we started the pod, and he put me in touch with Ignacio and the boys because I went there on my birthday when we were in Miami last year, and Tripping Animals was sick, so we got them on the pod, and that's I think it so far. But I was extraordinarily stoked to connect with you guys because I don't know, I just love Florida. I think it's the coolest shit ever. It's just so like people. I think it's misunderstood, and I
think it's well understood.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
well, I'm like in that like zone where maybe I'm only seeing what I want to see, and I'm rose-colored glasses as such, and I'm just like everything's awesome and everyone's so nice to us, and I could take my dog. Do you know what we say about Florida? they have suggestions, not laws. No one gives a
Really, yeah.
fuck. It is so wild. Like the drivers are absolutely insane and terrifying. But then we go to Trader Joe's, it says no pets, and there's a fucking guy in there with like 2 German shepherds. Like they're not service dogs, these are their pets. And I'm like, hell yes. I just want, like, it just feels like the ultimate, like, do what you want. Yeah, but like no one, I don't know, maybe because we spent our time a lot. We stayed in, it's called Alapata, right next to Wynwood and Midtown. So we were like Midtown basically every day type of thing. 'Cause Trader Joe's, we go across the border here to Trader Joe's once a month. It's the greatest thing that humans have ever made, aside from beer. So it's to be able to go to all that. I don't know. I just really enjoyed it, and that's why we were like, all right, well, we couldn't go this year. I can't remember what happened. Oh, it was just a soft winter. It felt like a waste. The winter was so pussy up here. We were like, all right, well, maybe we don't. But then now it's already started to get brick, and I'm like, no, I'm not having this. This is not for me. I'm not into it at all. Because we have to go outside because we have a dog. So if it was just my girlfriend and I, we would not leave the house. So it's yeah, I'm very, very fond of Florida, and I want to showcase. And I feel like the beer is super cool, and I feel like it's a different approach than a lot of the beer scenes that get a lot of shine, I guess. But when I did post on like stories last year when I was going to Miami, I was like, hey, I need some recos. I didn't know Jack. The people that did respond to me were passionate about it, like stoked about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really cool to me. Like whether it was Tampa or some people were like, yeah, look, there's not in Miami, it's in Tampa. It's like 5 hours away. But like, you know, if you can get up there, go to all these places. But this time we will.
That's one thing I will say for sure. Moving down here, living in 2 other states in the industry, is the fandom down here is epic. Like people love their breweries. The people that you know, and a lot of people are very loyal too. Which is very uncommon, I feel like, these days.
Yeah.
But I just
loyal how?
In the sense of like, hey, this is my favorite brewery. Like,
hell yeah.
Whatever it is, like the recommendations that you've probably gotten is because people that live in the area, they go there like 2-3 times a week. I've seen, I don't know, I guess I've experienced more of that kind of like groupie culture, not groupie culture, like just super fan culture of hey man, I love this brewery and I'm gonna make sure everyone knows that this is my favorite brewery kind of thing. And we've got a couple of those at home state for sure. And it's funny sometimes hearing like some of our regular, like I'm thinking of this one specific regular that comes into our tap room. He's just like, yeah, man, I'll go to other breweries. I'll tell them like, hey, man, I'm visiting right now. I've got a home at home state.
Who's that?
That's man, Xavier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. I love that. I appreciate you for that.
That's you're kind of right in that like loyalty. Like period is maybe not so much of a thing, and in beer sometimes it can be quite fickle, and I feel like it's more fickle in like the hype styles, whether it's haze, smoothies, stouts, probably it'd be the main ones where folks are like, whatever's got the newest haze that it's hard to get, I want that or whatever. But it's like I feel like the future of craft beer seems to be exactly that. Like often it's the one that's closest to you or the one that feels like the most home. Maybe it's a little bit out of the way. Serving communities, like bringing communities together, and that's kind of something I think both of you have talked about a bunch, whereas like like work from home state, and that's what you're trying to achieve with this. And I feel like that is the ultimate way to survive, and not just to survive but thrive as a business in this industry moving forward into 2025 and beyond. Like you got to be that to as many people as possible and just be the brewery that they go to. And like, cool, you're always going to get the tourists coming through that are just like sick, heard you're great. Oh, wow, this is fire. But the local folks are what's going to keep the lights on for you.
Right.
And giving them that experience, whether it's, the quality beer, the killer food, the great vibe in the tap room, the coffee, and the other thing, which I wish every brewery did that. Honestly, I just think it's so smart and it's so cool. I was talking to a brewery here. He mentioned the other day, he's like, yeah, we don't open until 2 p.m. so we could have coffee from like 8 till 2. I'm like, yeah, you fucking could. Just hire one person, get a machine, make sure they know what they're doing, boom, boom. Like I know it's not that simple, but it is and it isn't that simple. Like it's like a cool way to sort of increase revenue, which is really what everybody needs, while also providing a service to the community and giving a space, a cool, warm, inviting space that they feel cool spending their nights there. But why can't they spend the morning there too? It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And
I think early on too, like I said, with how the development company that we're leasing our space from came in and we're saying, hey, we want you guys to be this kind of like community hub, but like we really kind of just took that. There it is. We took that to heart, and that sense of community is definitely a huge part of who we are and how we operate. And I don't know. I've never worked at a different place where I felt that the most than kind of the way that we're attacking it at Home State. Our local, our like neighborhood regulars are diehards, and we love to see that. So we'll see how we expand from that, and hopefully expand that community feel into potential other locations or whatever we grow into down the road.
I definitely want to tap into that. Let's hit the next beer, because I know you guys. I know I'm drinking slower than you guys, just because.
Can we take a break?
Oh, we can absolutely take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. No rush. No, we good. And we're back. Alrighty, guys. Time for a brew.
Yeah.
Oh man, which one are we doing again?
Oh, we're doing this little guy right here.
Whoop.
The old Beach Boys right here.
Yeah, that's exactly right, baby.
Where is this place, by the way?
It doesn't exist, man. Kokomo. Yeah, it's made up.
Doesn't exist.
No.
Are you sure it's like in Hawaii or something like that?
Look it
Are
up.
you lying?
Look that up, Jamie.
Look it up.
Oh, look it up. See, you're doing
Joe Rogan.
I know. So Rogan's a man. Is Kokomo a real place? It's not a real place. It's a fictional island.
Oh my goodness.
So what's funny is that, like, okay, I guess I'm too young for that, but it was always playing in my parents' car in the 80s. And then, because they talked about Key Largo, I remember when we were in Miami, we're driving down to Key West. Like, oh shit, the Key Largo, it's a real place. Like, yeah. And I've been to Montego Bay, and I was like, oh.
Every place that they talk about in that song is real except for Kokomo.
No, honestly, blowing my mind, dude. Well, speaking of that, we're drinking a very summery, tropical little brew. What do we got here, boys?
Yeah, man. This is kind of like our Florida pool beer, if you will. So it's a Radler with pineapple, ginger, and hibiscus. And so the hibiscus gives it that, pretty pink color, which everyone loves. It's always that beer that, like, a couple of them get ordered in the tap room, and then people are like, wait, what is that? What's that pink beer?
Everyone wants it.
Yeah, and so, it's really just, Radler's that kind of that German kind of beer cocktail, if you will, of light lager or like a Hefeweizen or something, split with usually like a lemon or like a grapefruit soda. But
okay,
for us, we wanted to kind of emulate that. So by producing a super light, drinkable kind of hot weather beer with some of these flavors in it, carbonated pretty high, so it kind of has that like soda type, almost like a soda type carbonation, but not quite. But for us, it was all about like, hey man, this is like that poolside beer. You imagine yourself, sitting by the pool, just drinking this like crisp, refreshing, fruity beer, but isn't very sweet. So with a lot of the beers that we'll add fruit to, we'll kind of add the fruit on the tail end of fermentation, so that there's still active yeast in the tanks, and so it'll kind of still ferment out that sugar from the fruit that we get.
Mm-hmm.
So we dropped in a bunch of pineapple puree, some fresh ginger, some dried hibiscus leaves to give it that color and flavor as well. Just balanced, light, somewhat dry for a fruit beer. Just crisp and fruity and delicious.
Here for it, gentlemen. Get this in you. Cheers. Money. I feel like I'm at a pool in Winter Gardens. God damn it. Yeah, this is super cool. Super light, 4%. What's the base for this one? Lager,
It's actually just an ale base, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's like I think it was mostly Pilsner malt, and then I can't remember if we used a little bit of rice in there or whatever, just to really dry it out. But then, a little.
It's essentially like a golden ale, and then we dilute it down a little bit with some, just like water it down really to get it down to session kind of ABV, and then add the fruit as well. Yeah, really nice and easy drinking.
Yeah, it's super crushable. It's very smooth. It's like there's a bit of bitterness in there, unless I'm tripping out.
Well, so you get a little bit of like that tart characteristic from the hibiscus. You know, that kind of adds that tea-like,
earthy,
kind of,
there you
earthy,
go,
kind of floral characteristic.
Yeah, it's super smooth, very the great carbonation. I like it. It's got a little bit sharp.
Yeah, that sip.
That's the word.
That's
not girthy, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, this one is not girthy.
The
anti-girth. The anti-girth. I was about to say that.
There it is. We're gonna add that to the repertoire too, dude.
I'm adding it right now, boys. I'm adding it. Trust me. Anti-girth.
That's the name of the pod. Girth or anti-girth? Question mark.
How's marketing gonna feel about this?
Yeah. Oh, Shannon's cool. Yeah,
she's okay. All right, okay. We don't want to get anyone in trouble. But yeah, this is definitely the anti-girth, super sharp, like you said, like a little bit like tangy, earthy and floral from that hibiscus in there. I feel like the pineapple and ginger, I feel like it's not punching me in the face, but it's present, which is, I imagine, the subtlety.
Remember we talked about those subtleties earlier? Yeah, man. That's it.
It's there. Yeah, the ginger's like that little zip in the background. And the pineapple kind of carries through. I imagine that probably delivers some of the tart kind of vibes in here.
Yeah. You know, I think with a lot of these beers, we'll add non-traditional ingredients to. For me, it's like you still want to taste like a beer. When we're adding these other ingredients, it's very much like in the background. Like I said, I want it to be like you have a full pint and you're still like, oh, okay. There it is. I get that flavor, and I still want another pint of this. You know what I mean? As opposed to oh god, that was way too much. I'll have something else. You know.
Totally. This feels like to me the type of beer that I like to bring home a beer session on. Like if I'm doing a bunch of beers on a whatever, if I'm you go a couple different lagers and some haze, some westies, maybe a bit more double IPA or something, and then wrap up on something light. What is this? 3.6? Oh, 4.
Yeah,
4. Something like that is really cool to me. I feel like something that's flavorful, zippy, a little tart, a little tangy, but light, where you can feel like you're drinking something, but it's not gonna negatively contribute to your mash-upness at the end of a session. So I like kind of wrapping on a beer. This is almost like the perfect kind of beer to wrap up on, where it's kind of, whether it's winter here or shorts weather down there, it's still it's kind of perfect for that. It's got a nice balance of flavors. It's not overly sticky and sweet, and that sugary thing that might give you a little bit of a hangover.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is not going to give you a hangover. Absolutely.
Not at all. Was this the first time you guys done this one?
Nope, this is the second year in a row we did this one.
Second year.
We released it in the spring, but it was just so popular that we brewed it again to kind of last through the fall. And, down here, fall and winter are still hot months. So we still had it on. It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. How's it go in the tap? Like you said, in the tap room, people see it, they go. But I guess is it typically, aside from the visuals that obviously are quite attractive, it's this type of more question about the style, the sours and stuff go pretty hard down there.
Oh yeah. So we'll always have a sour on draft, one or two, and we tend to lean towards gozes as opposed to a Berliner Weiss, or I'm sure you've heard the phrase Florida Weiss before.
I have.
Yeah. Not going to get into that, but it's we always have some sort of fruited variety of something, whether it's a sour beer or not. And the people down here, they really like to kind of get into those non-beer flavors as well as like the traditional stuff.
Is that sort of contribute, because I felt like one thing I did notice a lot of was the smoothie sours. I know we sort of briefly touched on that before. Like I'm personally, I like kind of basically everything, but I felt like smoothie sours, basically every brewery I went to had some sort of a smoothie. I feel like they were pretty prevalent in Florida, as opposed to maybe up here where some breweries do it, but a lot don't. Is that more? Is like just that sort of fruit forward beers? Are they more of a thing? And I guess because you guys have sort of been around a bit, you could speak to both, whatever Central Southern Florida and beyond. But what's the vibes?
What do you think?
There's definitely a brewery too. I mean, there's a few of our like hype breweries in town that are really kind of like dipping their toes in the sand, not to the level of like some of the really big players are. I mean, I remember the first time I found one of those, like it was $24, like a 4-pack, and then you get it out and like kind of like the what is it, Dairy Queen, where they hold like the dessert upside down, like
The Blizzard.
The Blizzard, yeah. I feel like
the
you could do that
Blizzard.
with the cans for some of the ones, but no, I don't think it's like a huge thing people hang their hats on, and if so, maybe not quite to the level of like a Mortalis or something like that. Where,
Gotcha.
yeah.
From my perspective, yeah, some breweries kind of lean into that stuff because I think, the smoothie stuff I think was like a trend, and I feel like that's phased out. Like, I don't know if you really see a lot of that anymore.
There's still a brewery or two that I can think of nationwide that are like hanging their hat. Like 450 North is still like.
Yeah, 450 and Mortalis would be the two I would think of. Yeah.
But yeah, in my mind, like I never wanted to step into that realm. Like I said, as a traditionalist at heart, never. Like I said, I never even wanted to put lactose in a beer. And so
Tyler came through with that.
Tyler came through and was like, "Hey, let's make this beer." But
My man.
It's just like a
Proud.
sweet stout too. It's like a regular sweet stout. It wasn't even anything crazy.
I guess it's a stout. That's not the craziest thing, Phil.
Absolutely. But and so what to answer your question, what I'm seeing in terms of like it as a like Florida thing, seemingly was just more of like a trend of like, hey, here's these new things that people are doing, but it's not like prevalent.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, so maybe it was the places that I went to. I just found that maybe not everywhere. They felt like it was more common than I would see it here, and my guess was the weather.
I will say, no, I do think it moved the needle towards the sours being chunkier and like fruitier.
But I think it also goes back how we were saying, like, surprisingly, the Florida demographic of beer drinkers is generally seeking like bold, big flavors, and so when you get introduced this trend of smoothie sours that are just thick and just like fruit puree in a glass, people want to try it, people want to jump on it, but I think you see what lasts and what doesn't.
Do you guys think it will last, or are you saying essentially it hasn't lasted out there?
Yeah, I'm saying it's over.
It's over. All right, Sweetness is done. It's done out there.
I don't know. It's not done, right? But
you still see them, but yeah, it's not as prevalent, I think, as it was maybe 5 years ago.
That's its niche. Yeah, I think as you mentioned, 450 North and Mortalis still killing it. Yeah, but yeah, maybe past like the super hype point for at least my optics or whatever. I don't know.
No, that's fair. And as you guys are saying it, sort of like racking my brain for other breweries that I've sort of been to in the last, like, say this year that were doing them. It probably isn't as common as maybe I thought, but in my head, because we were in Miami in April last year for a month, and I just felt like everywhere we went, I feel like they were just always around, and it could have just been a perception in comparison to Canada. as opposed to a reality they're like fucking everywhere. Miami's doing.
Was it branded like that, where they market it as like smoothie sours?
Oh
or-
yeah,
Okay,
for
gotcha.
sure. Yeah. I and almost like, yeah, I'm even thinking back, even finding stuff in different places like Spanish Marie or Tripping Animals or fucking.
Interesting.
There was a few places that were doing them, but it almost felt like, and maybe I'm even thinking of like the trip as a whole. Like you go to different places up and driving up, driving down, and there were just smoothies around. But in my head, it felt like I saw a bunch and I could completely be tripping out, but just felt like, oh yeah, it just made sense to me, being like fruitier beers and lighter beers in hot weather as someone who isn't from hot weather.
Sure.
Would associate with that. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. If I'm in Florida, I want to drink lagers and maybe some fruity beers. That makes complete sense, as opposed to 15% pastry stouts.
I was super into like Marco scoffs at it, but I was super into like the Florida Vice thing when that was getting going. I still like to make my fruited sours like that, just kind of like light, fruity, and crisp. The smoothie sour things is almost like the antithesis to that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. It's very heavy.
But yeah, exactly. It's kind of like blended together now in a weird way. But I don't know. I think people really throw around the term Florida Vice anymore, though.
Not as much.
I haven't really heard it. I haven't seen it a lot in like packaging.
Yeah.
Is it just like a dated term, or is it just kind of people did it for a bit and then got over it?
I don't think it ever really caught on. Like the nerdiest folks probably know what it is, but like, yeah, it just didn't. That's just not what people want in sours now. I do think, like we were saying, that maybe you don't see a lot of like branded sours as like smoothie sours and stuff like that. But I do think the needle has moved towards, like, if you were to say this is our sour, like or a blonde sour, whatever, it's going to be closer to a smoothie sour. It's going to be chunkier. It's going to be sweeter than like a tart, dry, fruited like Florida Vice back in the day, just by default. Kind of like if you saw on a menu IPA now, it's probably going to be closer to a hazy IPA than a West Coast IPA without.
Which makes me so upset.
Yeah.
Anytime I see a beer can or whatever that it just says IPA,
I'm like,
and
what
I
is
open
this?
it and then it's a fucking hazy. Oh, God.
So where do you guys stand with hazies then? Like, are you guys into it as drinkers, and then second question, as brewers? Like, how do you guys feel?
I like hazy IPAs. Marco's not so much into them, but tastefully done, But I like most of like the really big players and stuff like that. The first time I ever went to Treehouse was amazing. So I like Treehouse stuff. I like Hill Farmstead stuff, But some of them are. I don't like them when they're super like super thick, super like super sweet,
Chalky,
polyphenol. Yeah.
You don't like the chalky?
No.
Huh. Okay. That's what I look for in them. I want that shit.
You like them nice and chalky? Okay.
Oh yeah, I want that shit like yellow milk. Let's go.
Okay, yeah.
Interesting. But that's the beauty of it, right? That like I feel like breweries do them differently. There's some breweries that do them that way, and then there's others that maybe they're a little more opaque. And
there's a lot of ways to do them. You said you were at Adroit Theory. Have you ever checked out Ocelot, kind of in that same area?
I did not know. We were driving from Richmond to Pittsburgh, so I went through Adroit Theory because I just wanted the crazy stouts.
Gotcha. Okay.
What's it called? Ocelot?
Ocelot, yeah. They're I visit that area once a year, and they're like 45 minutes out of like Dulles Airport, and they make some fantastic hazies. They're not like what people are really looking for in the trend, I think, these days, but I really like Ocelot's hazy IPAs as far as like how they're balanced, how they drink, and everything like that. So shout out Ocelot.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's I think that's really interesting that there is so many different like versions of it. Yeah. Wherever you go, and it's sort of like, yeah, even in Florida. I mean, I guess when I was there, I was trying to search out, like, always trying to, like, you go somewhere new, right? You want to find out like what's the best, who does what well, who does stouts well, who does haze well, who does crispies well, who does the sours or whatever well, and you're kind of just trying to like get a bit of a picture of it. But I think that's kind of the beauty of it, and I don't know. I feel like it's kind of cool. I love it when breweries are authentic to who they are. And if you ain't into it, I think that's cool. I think that's awesome. And I think you just need to do what you do best because you love that style. Because I found at least, what's the word? Like just anecdotally, if you breweries that don't that are sort of make styles that they kind of feel forced, where they're just like, oh, this is what the kids want. I got to make this fucking New England thing, and it doesn't turn out to be great. And it's
I've been saying that for years. Preaching the choir right now.
Yeah.
No, for sure. That like I'll be honest, it's one of those styles that I've never been a huge fan of personally to drink. And
Phase from Homestead been pretty good the last few months, I gotta say.
Yeah, I found it challenging to make one that I like because I just have a disdain for the style, and so
I think that's fair, dude.
It's
That's
honestly
totally
been really helpful having Tyler on because
I like drinking them.
Yeah, he likes it, so it's like, okay, well, run with it because I'm not gonna give it any help.
I think that's awesome, man. That's like, it couldn't be more authentic, and I think that's sick. I think it'd be just like, yeah, man. At least there's somebody on the team who fucks with it to do it. But say if you both didn't like it, I'd be probably better that you didn't even bother. It's just be like, yeah, it's not our thing. It's not what we're trying to do here at Homestead, and I respect that like totally. I think it's completely fair that if you're not into a certain style, that you shouldn't really have to do it due to market pressure. Because if they want hazy IPA, bro, the hazy IPA beer drinker is arguably the most fickle of all of them. They're going to go to wherever the newest one is. That's really all they care about. When I say they, I'm talking about me to a degree too. That I'm always interested in trying different stuff from different places. I'll go to Buffalo once a month and I'll go to my favorite store there and I'll go and pick up a bunch of different things. I've discovered a whole bunch of different breweries from that. And it's awesome. And it's really fun for me being in Canada. And I get to go and have this easy access to cool, fun stuff that gets in, they bring in stuff from all over. So I was like, if that's not your thing, then don't do it. But if Tyler, you're into it, then hell yeah, do that shit. But if both of you weren't, I'd be like, yeah, man, just do stuff like the My Gatos, which is phenomenal, like a killer American IPA. That's like, I would drink that every drinking session. I would drink that beer. That is exceptional shit. So it's cool. I think it's great that you don't have to hang, So then that kind of leads to a question. Do you guys have like if someone were thinking of home state, what would they think? What do you want them to think as far as like home state do X the best, or like that's what these guys do? Do you have like a
lager, man?
Lagers,
for sure.
Crispies.
Yeah, that's where we try to hang our hat. I think that's where, in terms of the creative side and the process side, for me particularly, that's where I try to focus. And that's what gets me the most excited. You know what I mean? And honestly, we've gotten some really great feedback from people that I respect, and other people in the industry that are just like, oh yeah, you guys are fucking making great lagers. It's like that's what I like to hear, because that's what I strive to do.
I love that. And to be honest, when I was actually looking at I was sort of just checking it out, like earlier today, I was checking out some of just the beers that we had tonight, looking at it in more detail and checking out the pictures of the brewery and stuff. I'm seeing a lot of pictures of Crispies, and I was like, oh, we got 3 out of 6 with Crispies. I didn't really like clock it initially when I was like, looking at everything. I didn't really like, I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, this is definitely going to be a crispy forward. And like, bro, like when Haze came into Canada, it was a little later. It was like 2016, but real slow to come in. And then, where you guys got a lot earlier. Like, I feel like I didn't, prior to that, it was like everything was kind of lagers and you didn't really appreciate it. And then it took the last few years to sort of, like, now literally the goated thing would be like a Czech Pilsner on Luca. Like something like nothing better. I would take that over anything. So like, it's really cool to see that. And then when I saw like, half the beers are lager, I'm like, oh, you guys are definitely that. So that was kind of my assumption. So it's very cool to see that.
Yeah. So we, in our tap room too, we've got 20 draft lines, and typically, 70 to 80% of that is lager.
20. That is huge.
Yeah, like we typically will have like 8 or 9 lagers on draft. typically.
God damn. Okay, so what sort of like talk me through? Say you got 8 or 9. What are we talking?
Oh, we're all over the board, man. So recently we did a couple cool collaborations. I mean, La Segunda was one of them. We did an Italian Pilsner with Coppertail for their 10th anniversary last month. We've done premium lager, smoked Helles, Doppelbock,
Like Dunkel?
Vienna lager,
All the loggers, yeah.
any
Yeah.
lager style that you think.
Anything. Schwarzbier,
Schwarz-
Tamave.
Oh, actually, Schwarzbier is one we haven't done.
I want to do it.
Is it?
Check dark.
Yeah.
Czech Duck is a Tamave, and Schwarzbier is the
Tamave
German
we've
duck.
done. Yeah, we actually we did
Yeah.
a smoked Tamave.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, we actually did one. That beer, a portion of that went into like bourbon barrels too.
Dang.
That was really fucking good. Oh, we did a bourbon barrel aged Doppelbock before, called Make Like a Tree. Oh, the original beer was called Flux Capacitor, like like the Back to the Future reference.
That's
And
amazing.
then we did a barrel aged version then called it Make Like a Tree. I don't know. Yeah, we do all of it, man.
Bit of everything across the
Yeah.
board. See, that's sick. So then, really, do you guys have Luca taps or side?
Yeah,
brews?
we've got 2.
Let's go. Okay, that's fun. What do you normally keep on that?
Whatever lot. Well, one is always Adults Are Talking, which is probably the last one we're going to end with today.
Well, it's actually good timing. We're about to get into that right now. Oh, we got the Hefeweizen too.
Let's do Hefeweizen
Yeah,
first,
let's do
and then
that.
we'll
Oh, do you Hefeweizen first?
end it with adults.
Okay.
So we'll always have Adults Are Talking on Lucre, and then whatever other specialty or seasonal lager we have on the other one.
That's so cool. Oh, that's so sick. Imagine living in that in Australia we call it like a housing estate. What would you call that? Like the air, like you said, there was like kind of like a development.
Yeah. Like,
It's not a bad word.
Like housing estate is like where describe what it is.
Like we grew up and then my mom lived. Say like it's a developer and they call it like one of the main ones. Me and my brother we lived in was like Oak Tree Rise. And there's like a roundabout.
I think here they call it like a subdivision.
Okay, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Where
they
it's
got
like a
like
gated community and like
I think
It's not-
gated communities might. Yeah,
but all
It's
the,
not
all the
gated.
houses are like cookie cutter. They all
No, definitely not. Like, okay, so it's different in America. North America, I find that like developers make the houses. In Australia, they sell you the land, and then you just build whatever you want. So all the houses are totally
Yeah, it
different.
doesn't fly everywhere.
Yeah.
You get to choose between 3 colors of eggshell. Yeah.
I know exactly.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah, see, I learned what a HOA is over here. We don't have that stuff over there for like the developments. It's almost like someone pays to develop the land, make it into lots, probably put in the sewage and the electricity and shit, and then you just buy it, and then you get they have like houses. I don't know what you call them. My dad, what the fuck are they called?
Like, a few different models that you choose from.
Exactly that. So say we have a lot of display homes here in Australia.
Yeah.
When I say here, like I keep thinking I live there. And you go to the display homes and they've got like 20 different models, but then you can take a model that you like and you can like mirror it and then make this wall a little further back and then make that room, type of thing.
That happens here, yeah.
Okay. So it seems to be quite less. I was explaining to my girlfriend, like that's how it works there. And she's like, yeah, that doesn't really happen so much here, but that type of situation. So like that's pretty sick to be in that type of situation, because when there wasn't even a corner store in the one that we lived. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And that's so sick. There's a brewery, and then there's all this other shit I imagine too that's so fire. And the brewery has 2 Luca taps. I don't know. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Kind of goated right
That's
there.
exactly what you're describing. Exactly what we're in.
God damn it. Let's have a Hefeweizen, shall we?
Yeah, man. Let's do it. Oh man.
There we go. I got to hear about the name of this one.
So this is Doctor's Orders. Kind of like like rest, or well, there is the quote unquote theoretical health benefits of like beer with yeast, like a Hefeweizen.
I like that.
I don't know. I forget what it is. They say some like probiotics aspect of it. What have you? It's good for hangovers. Really, for us, it's like, hey, the doctor prescribed rest and relaxation, which is why you see that little like retired turtle kind of floating.
He be chilling.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's funny. Yeah, people come into the tap room and it's like, well, let me get that doctor's orders. Yeah, that's right. Nah, man, it's that traditional Hefeweizen. It's nothing. We didn't reinvent the wheel here. It's like 50% wheat to Pilsner malt.
Mhm.
German hops. I think it's tradition hops. And
Okay.
yeah, man, just we played around with different yeast strains. We've been kind of dialing it in so that we can get the banana and clove characteristics that we want. We go through various like step mash temperatures. We decoct this as well, just because it was something I saw when I was in visiting Germany. Yeah, they put it through the cereal cooker, which is probably unnecessary for this, but just for the aspect
culture,
of
right?
the culture. Yeah, it's just like a fun thing, but I think it does add, like I said, this like girthiness to that malt characteristic.
There it is. There you
go.
I'm not gonna go further.
yeah.
I love it. It's girthy. I'm excited to taste the girth, gentlemen. Get some girth in you. Cheers, boys. Smells girthy. That is girth. That is girth in a glass.
That's a good one.
Hefeweizen for me
is
one of those beer styles that is always going to be like near and dear to my heart. I don't know. Unlike lager, it's something different. It's got this complex kind of ester characteristic. It's so creamy and smooth. I don't know, man. There's this brewery in Chicago that really kind of got me onto it, called Peace Pizzeria and Brewery.
I've heard of that.
They've been around since like, I don't know, the early 2000s, and for probably like 2004 to 2008, probably won like 4 or 5 like GABF or World Beer Cup awards for their Hefeweizen, and that's kind of like where I just kind of fell in love with the style. Just really want to emulate those like traditional kind of flavor profiles and just making it an easy, fluffy, easy drinking beer that you want over and over again.
How does this type of thing? I feel like I see it more and more lately, like Hefeweizens. What's the vibes like? Is this like super popular? Because this is a flagship one, right?
It's one of the year-round beers, yeah, and it's like probably our third most popular taproom beer and distribution beer for sure.
Interesting. What would be the two before that?
My Gatos is number 1, and then Party Goblin, the
number 2
lager for number 2. Yeah.
Interesting. What's a cub? Who is the main? It's the girth. Who is the main like customer who's grabbing a Hefeweizen these days? I'm always curious.
Good question. I want to know.
Dude, it is wild, a wildly like broad spectrum of who drinks this beer, from your very young like 22, 23-year-old never drink craft beer before, I want something light that has flavor, to your like 40-year-old like seasoned drinker who's like, I just want Hefeweizen. It's all over. It's pretty crazy how diverse the fan of the fan club this beer has.
Interesting. I was kind of lit the other week, and I signed up. I got the 1 year thing to Untapped. I was like, fuck it. There was like the Black Friday deal. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna sign up and get the thing. And when I started the little selfie shit, it was January 2011, but I didn't get Untapped for like 800 beers in my reviews. So I'm going back and putting them in, because when you buy the Untapped thing, you can change the date and you can put them back. And it's always like annoying to me if I don't know if I've had the beer. So I'm like doing that, and then looking back at my very beginning reviews when I knew nothing. God, I knew nothing. And I drank. It's hilarious that long ago, like how little I knew. But the volume of Hefeweizens I drank was bonkers. Like it was easily, I would say, my favorite style back in the day. And I almost feel like since I discovered haze, I kind of like hadn't really dabbled unless it's on the pod. So it's kind of fun for me to be, because it's not something that's why I was curious, because it's not something that personally I would reach for or I would go out of my way to get. But then when I'm on the pod, it's sick because I'm like gonna get, it's like you get to drink stuff that maybe you don't always go for. And I think that's a part of the fun and getting back into stuff. And it's super interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, the intensity of how people will come in and just be like, I just want that half, man. That's it. It's like, okay, cool, man. That's why we make it for you.
I totally get it. Even if you think about it, like if back in the, that's what I was always thinking, like back in the day when there wasn't as many style decisions, where like as far as like the options, and whereas now it's like there's so many different things you can drink. So it's like if you're mostly drinking lagers and a little bit of other stuff, and you have a Hefeweizen, it's not that much of a departure from a lager, and you're like, whoa, cloves, bananas, bubblegum, whoa, what's happening? Like it's mind-blowing to somebody. And that's how I'm reading every time I'm checking into the beer, just like looking through my old things. I'm like, oh, this is hilarious what I'm saying about it. I'm losing my shit. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This is interesting. And it's like, then now with that in mind, I'm looking at like, all right, with the way that beer has changed, like who is continuing to really enjoy it and drink this? So it's, I guess, like you're saying, it sounds like kind of like a bunch of everybody is going hard with it. And
it is a very
style,
like,
right?
it is a very like kind of gateway style for people who, aren't quite used to drinking craft beer. Someone that comes into our tap room every now and again will just be like, yeah, let me just taste a few different ones. I don't really know beer. I don't know what I like. And they come across this one that's like, oh, okay. Like, that's cool. I don't know if it's because it has like familiarity to something that they maybe have or drink on the regs, or just because it's like approachable without being, it's complex without being too intense.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, again, one of my favorite beer styles, just because it does have that complexity and it's still super crushable, and you can like chug these.
You definitely see the chug. It's and once again, it's always like, and maybe you guys aren't thinking of it, but for someone like up here, I'm just like, oh, this would be nice sitting on a patio, hot as shit, and he's like, yeah, man, this will go down a treat. A little bit of extra flavor, like maybe someone who's not into, as we kind of mentioned earlier, like beer flavored beer. This is like a cool alternative to that. Similar ABV, tons of flavor, similar like mouthfeel as far as like it's not like some sort of big thick ass or girthy, as some might say, New England IPA. It's a little bit more chill. Like, yeah, man. I like it. I always find it, and I find it extra interesting that it's that popular, that it's the year rounder, and I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it makes sense alongside the fact that you're saying that lagers are what you're mainly known for, and I kind of feel like that's part of that German kind of like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you guys align more with like the German Crispies or say the Czech Crispies? Bit of both. Or?
That's tough. That's tough to pick. Yeah, I'd say a bit, like you said, a bit of both, man.
Bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
Generally speaking, European lager.
It's definitely German for me. I love Czech lagers, but man, it's really hard to find really, really good ones. They're kind of like more rustic and I don't know, harder to nail down. Yeah, definitely big German background for me.
When you say harder to nail down, are they just not really distributed as much?
No, it's harder. I feel like people don't nail them as much, or they don't get what they're supposed to be. A lot of the times
on the execution side.
Yeah,
gotcha.
A lot of times they're just, from my vantage point, it's just German pilsners or regular lagers just marketed as Czech lagers. I don't know. What Repeat what I said.
You said German lagers, or
They're just German lagers or just European lagers marketed as Czech lagers.
Right, and they're very different. Like if you actually try it, like
yeah.
Svetli versus Helles.
there's definitely a complexity there to like Czech style lagers that German lagers tend to be a little more like straightforward and crisp.
Yep,
for sure.
Yeah, the Czech's got that grassy bitterness, a little bit more going on.
Yeah.
So it is pretty noticeable that if you're saying that they're marketed as that's a bit of a shame that people are like trying to pass something off as something else when they're markedly different.
Sure.
Hopefully, I'm not gatekeeping, but yeah, I don't know. It's always a turn off when I ask a lot of my brewer buddies, like, "Oh, what kind of yeast did you use in this Czech lager?" Like, I use German lager yeast. I'm like, well, there's a Czech lager yeast that has a lot of very unique like things that kind of like define this style.
Yeah.
Besides decoctions and stuff like that, but probably just if any of my friends watch this, a few of them are gonna be like, "Oh, asshole.
Fuck you, Tyler."
You said you liked my Czech lager."
It's okay, bro. They know they need to be doing better.
Have you been to Cohesion in Denver?
No, god damn it, but I know of it. Yeah,
man.
They're doing some killer lagers there.
Fuck yes.
That's like the Czech. That's like the Czech Mecca, in my opinion. The American
Czech Mecca.
Yeah. Interesting. Is that okay? So then there's Von Trapp, I guess, in Vermont.
I've been there. I don't remember the Czech stuff.
It's probably more German, isn't it?
Really good German stuff, yeah.
So the Czech stuff, yeah. You know what? I'm trying to think in the States where have I been? That's fucking. I went to Hofbrauhaus, funnily enough, last week on Friday. In Buffalo. If I didn't know shit, bro. Like we did an episode, me and Nathan.
Oh yeah, man. They're
all over the place.
They're an institution.
I didn't fucking know. It was crazy. We did an episode on fest beers, and because we love fest beers, and then we got all the going.
They're German.
They are German, but we did an episode on all local fest beer. There's longer story, but there's this place called the LCBO, Liquor Control Board of Ontario. Here in Ontario, which is the main government-run liquor store. Longer story, kind of crazy. So we went to there and we just grabbed every fest beer they had. Two of them were German. One was Hofbrau, one was Paulaner. So we had all the local ones. Excuse me. And at the end, we had Hofbrau and the Paulaner. Like, oh, the local ones were good, but then the Hofbrau and the Paulaner were like another level. And then I found when I was posting about them that there's a Hofbrauhaus Buffalo. I'm like, get fucked. Then I saw exactly what you're saying. They're everywhere. There's one in Melbourne. They're in all over the state. So we went on Friday, and it was fire, bro. It was so sick.
No, the beer's pretty solid, honestly.
They import the pretzels
everywhere.
Yeah, like import the pretzels for Germany, and like it was sick. So like I had that. I'm just Cohesion might be the one for.
What's crazy is with Hofbrau. All the I don't know if I'm pretty sure they had multiple breweries in Germany, but they opened the first brewery outside of Munich in Chicago back in like, I don't know, 2014 or something like that.
Okay.
It didn't do so well just because it was such a big space. They had to eventually they had to close down, but the brewery still exists. It's something else. It's like another brewery now.
Okay.
But it was just crazy to see that, oh wow, they expand, like the fact that they decided to open this brewery in Chicago, and it was the first time that they had, had to export beer into the States. They were just serving it fresh on site. I was in heaven, man. It was great.
It's kind of genius, eh?
Yeah.
If they had like the bands playing and stuff, like doing the German thing, and like it was a really cool experience. And I was like, now you guys were talking about Czech, like I can't think any other American like Czech experience as far as crispies are concerned. I'm just trying to picture around like
everyone dabbles, or like everyone has like one or two offerings, but very few people like. I mean, there's not as much to devote to, but like. Yeah, the Cohesion is the one that I can think of. Like that's their entire identity.
They're based on that, okay? Because we got a couple
Czech style.
It's only Czech style.
Only Czech style, okay?
Yeah.
Like there's Godspeed in Toronto and True History in Toronto. Those two basically are mostly Czech with a little bit of German. but then they don't really do any other styles, those two. But that's really all. Okay, so it's not super common, is what you're saying, as far as like the Czech style stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't get as much love. I think it's a little more misunderstood from my vantage point.
No, that makes sense. Why would you think? Why do you think it might be misunderstood?
I just don't think that. I think people think that Czech lager is just a German lager that's a little less bitter, and there's a lot more to it than that.
Totally. And when you say people, you mean brewers?
No, just the way
Drinkers?
it could be brewers. Yes, that's the heart of it, because they're responsible.
They're going to be doing it. Yeah, they're
the ones who
responsible.
are putting it out there, marketing it, and everything like that. But a lot of the time, it's a Czech lager for most of my buddies is just a German lager that is less hopped, and that's it.
We put Czech Saaz hops in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's got Saaz, and it's yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I guess that's definitely. I always thought that the breweries that would do something like German or Czech beers would be like a little more like adamant about the Reinheitsgebot type shit, like the 4 ingredients, making sure it's accurate to Germany, to Czech. I just feel like it's a little nerdier in the best possible way. Like if you're going to do Czech beer, fucking do Czech beer. Use Czech hops, use Czech malt, use Wyman, whatever it is. Like do it right, do the decoction, etc.
It's funny because decoction is like a Czech thing more than a German thing. It's both, but like you can get away with making a lot of great German styles without decocting it. But like if I was to open a Czech brewery, everything, literally SOP, everything is getting decocted.
Yeah, you have no choice, right?
Mm.
What is the difference between single, double, triple decoction?
More girth. More Maillard reaction, more girth, more grain. Yeah.
Stop it! You're fucking killing me tonight. More girth. We can't call the episode more girth.
I'm sure somebody smarter than me could really lock it in there. They'll do different steps and everything like that a lot of times.
You guys are awesome. This is brilliant. Yeah, no, I feel you. So what's the vibes in Florida then, coming back to that, like with these styles, with Czech and German style lagers, as far as authenticity? Is it common? Are people taking it serious, generally speaking?
Like the consumers
/ breweries, I guess. Maybe probably more of a question for breweries. Like,
I think there's.
If I may, I mean,
who makes the girthiest lagers, Tyler?
In Tampa, Florida, big industry favorite. You might have heard of them, Berry House in Tampa.
I have.
They just won they won Gold World Beer Cup for Vienna Lager several years ago, but they just won Gold World Beer Cup last year for Czech Lager.
Okay.
It's funny. I was talking about it earlier. Like they very well could be using German lager yeast instead of like Czech lager yeast or whatever. But I don't know. Ask Jim Barry what he's doing to get the girth on his Czech lager. But no, I mean they at least people have an understanding, and that is I think it was originally a Green Bench collab, and they kept brewing it. If I'm not mistaken, but that's a choice lager. That every time that's like my one destination when I visit home is going to Berry House.
The girthiest lagers in Tampa.
If that's what you're looking for, but they have some not girthy ones too,
But like the girthiest lagers in Winter Gardens, it got to be. You know what? Forget that. Let's go like the Great Orlando area. Like no one's making girthier lagers than Homestay. That's what I heard around the way.
I think so. Yeah, I can think of a couple other breweries I really respect, but yeah.
I feel like you guys might be doing the girthiest. Dude, I can't.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you've had
no, you're welcome, dude.
Well,
I'm here for compliments.
That being said, man, let's go into this last beer. Which
let's do it.
So earlier, I think at the beginning of the podcast, you said, I think we were talking about Miller High Life, and you were talking about like desert island beers, like some other brewers would say that, but You know, this is like my absolute favorite beer that we make. You know, if I were to be on a desert island, this is what I would drink. Adults Are Talking, and the name is meant to be a jab at, you know, smoothie, fruity sours and stuff like that. Like, you know, which is for the kids. This beer's for the adults.
I like that.
Uh,
Luca.
And the label kind of has that, like, it's, you know, Florida theme, so it's almost like that Charlie Brown kind of little baby flamingos looking up at the adults up top kind of scene.
I can totally see that. The blue and the pink again as well.
Yeah. You know, bringing that Florida vibe. So this is a German-inspired Pilsner,
Okay.
with like a little bit of an American twist. So all German Pilsner malt with German tradition and Saphir hops.
Ooh, okay.
And so the, you know, somewhat low on the bitterness side, but it's dry hopped. Which gives it that kind of like extra aromatic, you know, the little bit of like herbal kind of herbal tea, grassy characteristic.
What's the dry hop with? The same hops?
Yeah.
That is spectacular. Okay, so German style, not Czech.
You know, I mean, Marco has. I'll say this to his credit. We talked about like Gatos having micro changes and stuff like that. Since I came on. All the core brands I've kind of like given like slight nudges, like, hey, I think this could be a little more optimized if we did X, Y, and Z. He might not even know this, but this is actually the one beer that since I've come on, I'll be like, I have no notes, just like keep rolling it out as it is. Like it doesn't need to be changed. So this is one of my favorite beers too. You know, my impression of it's a little bit different. I actually think it's at base a German thing, but it's almost like an interesting hybrid between like a kind of a Czech lager because we decoct it, we get it pretty. The final gravity is pretty high. It's about 3.5 on average. So like
Plato.
Yeah, 3.5 Plato. So it's like 14 specific, 0.14. But then we also dry hop it, so it's almost like a hybrid between like a Czech and like an Italian Pilsner to me, which I guess lands in the German area. It drinks like a German Pilsner, I'd say. But
I like that. I'm fascinated. Gentlemen, get some girthy lagers in you. Prost.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh, that is straight girth. Just the girthiest German/Italian/Czech Pilsner I've ever had. That is fucking phenomenal.
We just market this one as Pilsner too, though. So it's like whatever one you want it to be, right?
Yeah.
And so this one, once again, this was Saphir, right? Just Saphir?
Saphir and Tradition.
Saphir and Tradition. Okay. I love that. This is fantastic. It's Saphir and Tradition. You know, the rapper Saphir died recently, which sucks. Do you guys know him?
No, I'm not familiar now.
No. Longer story. Yeah, this is fantastic. So this is 4.5 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super grassy. This is interesting. Like, I see what you mean about
I keep wanting to bring it to my nose, man. Like, it honestly, it just smells like you just opened a bag of German hops.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, you kind of onto something with that mix between the Italian Pilsner is such an interesting beer. Right? Like when you smell it and you try it, you're like, that's an Italian Pilsner. But it's like the mix here is like, oh yeah, you guys need that full pour. I see that. Look at that. Marco's like, no.
I didn't have enough.
You give me that full pour, God damn it. I'm done with this coquito right here. Yeah, like this is exactly how you described it, Tyler, man. Like this is like totally on that like that Italian meets German probably. It is quite herbal and bitter.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that's more of a trait of a Czech style than German, because I feel like Germans lagers typically, speaking, are a little more relaxed
Oh yeah.
in comparison. The Czech ones sometimes are a little more of a palate punch.
This is for sure a hybrid of just all of my favorite lagers in one.
Which is awesome. Fuck, this is great. Dude, this is so good. I can see why this is a flagship and why this would be on I could imagine this on Luca or doing like a little Maliko shot for this bad boy.
Yeah.
Oh man. Was this one of the ones you guys had from off rip from
Yeah, like I said, it was like a Zwickel beer version of this beer.
Of this. Okay. And excuse my ignorance, I always forget the Czech the crispy version. Zwickel is more of like the Keller beer type of thing, where it's
Correct.
like a
Zwickel beer, Keller beer are kind of like interchangeable.
same thing. So it's a little more opaque, less like unfiltered type of thing. Yep. Gotcha. Yeah, this is on the money. This is fantastic. And I feel like once again though, having 3 different these are all very different lagers from you guys. Very, very different. And I can see for sure what you're talking about, that Home State is a lager driven brewery, and this is so fire, man. And just even the fact that you guys have even got the Luca, that you're able to sort of deliver that. I just feel like as a consumer, isn't there no better experience? Like if you're going to go to a place and you have the mug, like the Halfway Crooks thing, or the guy there, like shouts to them too, they killer. Yeah, I've been there in Atlanta. Like I didn't even know that they were
lager hat right off the camera here.
Right there. Yeah, they slap, and just having like that type of stuff, and then just like just going to a brewery and just getting that beer on the Luca is just sort of like a godly experience. Personally, I just think it's like there's no better, because you that's the one thing you can't replicate in a can, even if it's on nitro or something. It's close-ish, but it's not the same as having that Luca pour at the brewery in that beautiful mug, you know. And this beer, I could tell this is like, it's got all of that. It's so what's the word?
Balanced.
Girthy. Like the cereals, it's balanced for sure, absolutely balanced. But it's the cereal. I'm joking, but I'm not. Like it is girthy in the sense that like the cereals and the grains are just so fantastic, and they balance so well with that sort of grassy herbal vibe, whilst the perfect carb and being incredibly crushable. It's fantastic. Boys, this is so fire.
Okay, cheers again, man. Thanks.
Yeah, cheers, gentlemen. This is an experience. I'm loving this. Yeah, that herbal note is kind of kicking up a bit, which I think is so sick. And it's almost like I don't want to say roasty. There was something that just hit in the nose right then. Maybe roasty's not it, but it's very bready, like toasted, like bread crust.
Bready for sure. Yeah.
Very bread crust, as opposed to that crackery lighter kind of malt. It's like a little bit of a, I don't know if dark is the word, but a little bit deeper malt there.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think you said it already. There's a word for it. Girth.
Tell me. Girth. Do you know what's missing from the Home State lineup, boys? I feel like there needs to be a beer. And I feel like a real malty beer, a real chewy beer, a real rounded beer, a real cylindrical beer. Girth. Just girth. Just girth. And it could be, what was the one we said you hadn't done?
It sounds so good with your accent too.
I'll do any videos sexy. You need me to do for social, boys. I'll do it all. I'll fucking
say it again.
Girth. Because you got to relax that R pronunciation. You got to pull it back. It's not girth. It's girth. Girth.
Soften that R. Yep.
Didn't expect it to go this way, sir. Didn't expect the pod to go this way, and this is the beautiful thing about this whole thing. I love this so much. This is fucking amazing. Honestly, though, dead ass, this beer is of all, like, honestly, like, fuck this. I was about to say this and the Oh My Gatos, but then it's really close with the La Segunda as well. La Segunda, no, it's La.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
I like
You
a
got.
little bit of spice you're throwing on that that vernacular there.
Oh, I've been doing Duolingo for like 600 days, my guy. I'm on that Spanish shit because I really thought I'd need to know it. And I'd learned it back in Australia like 20 years ago because I came back from Europe and I felt like a dumbass. I was like, everyone knows like 17 languages. I know one barely. Let me try and learn Spanish. Yeah. But it's like, no, this is so cool, man. It's so cool to see. I feel like this is such a fun lineup, and I like the way that we spaced it all out and really sort of like showcase what you guys do. And then, you know, this is I'm so deeply impressed for real. And you guys both with your incredible resumes, like dead ass, like both of you guys have been at spectacular breweries to lead you to where you're at now, and then to take this into its own space. I think is just like kind of best case scenario where it was like you're taking the best of everything that you both have learned over the years, and then being able to take it to to do lagers at this level, and then obviously to offer an in-person experience from what from what I've seen and from what you've described. I'm excited to see it, but with the coffee and the sandwiches and the space, I just think it's like such a cool all-round thing. And in a town like Orlando, then while I went there for 12 hours or something, which was obviously not enough to suss it out, but people think of Orlando, they think of Disney World, they think Universal,
Sure.
they think of all that stuff, and it's probably not fair. I imagine there's
No
so
way.
much.
Yeah, I agree, man, for sure. It's like I said earlier, Orlando is really become kind of like a beer destination town that I think people in Florida are understanding, and I think people in the rest of the country and beyond are still trying to still have the opportunity to learn. But when you come to visit, come to visit us, come to visit some of the other breweries that are in town, because we're throwing out some really good beers for sure.
Yeah. And just delivering a different experience. And I think that like in if you look at thinking into 2025 and what's working, what's going to take beer forward, and we were talking about before about the Gen Z and not really drinking and people drinking different stuff and like all of these different things, like what's going to take beer forward. And I feel like just offering great stuff and offering a phenomenal experience on a local level that is amazing for the people who live in your community, but also that is so good that you're serving your local community so well that people who like myself who are going to come to Florida are just going to be like, I keep hearing about this homestay thing. Like I gotta swing past and check, and that's really kind of, I think, what the future of craft beer is. I'm curious of what will you guys think, but from what the conversations that I've had, and it really does seem that local first is key, and that's absolutely everything that you both have expressed throughout this podcast. And then the secondary level is the folks who are traveling through, whether it's from different cities in the same state, out of country, etc., coming through and then raving about that. Like if I go and post, hey guys, I'm going to Florida in a few months, where should I go? And then I want to see, like, people should be recommending the most fire experiences. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that's kind of where it's at. Like, where do you guys feel the beer is going into 2025?
So I honestly think that with beer in general, the days of just like, hey, let's make really great beers and open up a tap room and expect it to be successful are over. Like, it's not just beer anymore. Because there obviously there are so many breweries and so many options now, just a plethora of different like styles and different varieties. But I think what really makes it, I joke about this all the time. It's like, yeah, we're not really a beer company, we're an event company. Because like that's what drives like major sales days for us at our tap room anyways, is like, hey, if we're having like a big event, Oktoberfest as an example is like our busiest day of the year. But like throughout the week, it's like it's become to a point where it's not enough to just have really great beer. You have to have a full-on experience that to become just different than another brewery. You know, it seems to me from like the average consumer standpoint, it's like, yeah, you can appreciate great beer, but only like a small niche of the overall customer base will truly appreciate just like the niche of like and like the craft side of it in order to become successful and to, you know, kind of cater to a plethora of consumers. It's got to be more than that, which is unfortunate, you know, because when I was coming into it, the beer was the star. Now it's like you have to have other things. But
So true.
That's created really great opportunities. I think there's really cool things that we can do as our, you know, in our space to have these really great kind of experiences. Like I said, where we have either like live music or some sort of like other draw, and we bring in like, you know, one of our busiest events that we throw is a boozy book fair, where it's like quite literally, like, I don't know if
That's so cool.
you grew up, you had like a elementary school book fair where you would go, and then
We did.
like the school gym, it was just a bunch of books, and like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you had to buy them or whatever, or you pick the ones you like, and it's
Yeah,
a similar thing.
Mom, can you get me
people like to
this?
come and drink and buy books. Like, it's great.
That's so sick.
But then it's also like, you know, promoting the or supporting the other businesses, like the local bookstores that have these events. And while we do these book fairs, we also have vendor markets where it's like local artisans come and sell their you know, printed glassware, their artwork, or you know, their merchandise or whatever, stuff like that. You know, I feel like it's all about collaboration at this point.
With the local businesses and just with the community at large.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like that's like a great way to summarize it. Like, it really shows that it's tapping into the community, and it's showing the community that you are part of it, that you are committed to them, and that you will support them regardless of like doing a boozy book fair. Dude, that's such a sick idea. Like,
Yeah.
it's just fun and something different, and I feel like one of the key themes through all of these like hundreds of podcasts we've done is that like breweries are a community hub, and they need to sort of behave as such, and that is a quintessential example of behaving exactly like that you're able to bring those other businesses to your space and bring the people to your space to make everybody feel comfortable no matter what their background is. Because I think that's the other thing as well, is like everybody needs to be into beer, and I feel like not everybody is, and some people might feel like they're not included in beer, and I think that's not where we need to be at. Everybody needs to be. The joke we always have up here, America is a lot better than Canada. The joke we always have is white dudes with beards, and it kind of is, but beer was invented by fucking women in Africa like 8,000 years ago. So why does it end up in dudes in beards and fucking flannel and shit? Like, it makes no sense. So I think the other way to counteract that is to bring the community in, like the community at large, no matter what your age is. Well, you know, of drink. Well, I guess like if you're having book fair, you probably don't have to drink because you've got other options. You got the coffee, you got the food.
Yeah.
And just really being that community hub. I think that's sick, and I think that's a really admirable goal, whilst also making world-class phenomenal beer that you can give to any beer nerd. Kind of like you both have been in the beer nerdiest breweries, like that's where you've both come up through. So I imagine that you guys would be both proud to give to any of your ex-colleagues at any of these breweries, but yo, check this shit.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like
it's really fun. It's really fun to have former colleagues come through and just be like, ha, check this shit out, man.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, you see? Huh? You didn't think this was gonna be fire, huh? Like, yeah, this is like all truly exceptional, like as good as anything else. Like, I feel like you guys need. I mean, once again, it's only been almost 3 years, so I mean, like that's. This is
we're still in our infancy, man.
In the infancy,
sure.
So it's really about doing so. Like moving forward, are you guys doing like? Are you guys participate? You kind of alluded to some before, but participating in festivals and like sending stuff out of state to kind of start to. Or even not even just out of state, sorry, like, you know, around in different cities to kind of like let, you know, for as far as distro. Getting people
Yeah,
to
yeah.
what's up?
So we work with our distributor is Progressive Distribution here that's based out of Orlando area,
Okay.
but they are a statewide distributor, and it's really great, man. They're really great people, and they carry one of the best like beer portfolios in the state. And so to be a part of, them is great because they have such a wide footprint. And so, with us, we've only been in distribution with them for like about a year. And it's like almost that shotgun effect where it's like the whole state, anyone that wants it is available, can get it. And it's really starting to show now how people will come to visit from, the Panhandle area or like South Florida and say, hey, yeah, I tried your beer at this local bar or my local like bottle shop. And now that I was in town, I wanted to come visit you guys. It's like, that's it. That's what we're looking for when it comes to distribution. So there's definitely like growth potential there with different projects that we have with specific like high volume accounts and stuff like that we're working on. But yeah, I mean we're at an early stage of the business that we're prone for growth.
Love that.
It's exciting.
Hell yeah, it is exciting, man. It's super cool, particularly with you got beers this good. That's there's so much potential. How do you guys feel about a real quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll bring this bad boy home?
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I figured we'd order. All right, we're back in a sec. Alrighty, boys. So to bring this bad boy home, this Pilsner, once again, spectacular. I absolutely understand why it is a flagship, and I need to have this on Luca. Oh look, totally unpixelated now. Look at that. Looking glorious. Boys, honestly, truly, thank you so much for your time. This has been a really fun conversation. I know I kept you up way past your bedtime. So I appreciate that a lot. And just the chat, this was super fun. I don't think I've laughed this much in a while, particularly with the girthy beer. It's phenomenal. I love it so much. But it's a thing. It's absolutely a thing. I'm going to tell everybody about. I'm going to use it in even if the beer isn't girthy, I'm going to describe it as girthy now. Shouts to Tyler coming through with that. But no, like honestly, thank you both for taking the time and for sharing the beers and for like, yeah, man, I'm super impressed. And like you said, you guys are coming up on 3 years in Feb. Is there anything you guys are doing for the 3-year anniversary that you can talk? This will come out in say 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can talk about?
Our 3-year anniversary is going to be the weekend of Valentine's Day. So it's going to be kind of like a 3-day affair. The first night we're actually going to do, I think, a ping pong tournament.
Hell yeah.
Friday night. Saturday is going to be our big like celebration. We'll have live music, beer releases. And then Sunday we're going to be celebrating Filigree's 30-year anniversary as well.
Nice.
30
with like
years?
yeah, they opened with us. Yeah.
You said 30.
30?
Yeah.
Third, that's what I think that's what I said.
30.
Everything is getting pixelated.
We've all had a
But yeah, no, it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna have live music, fun stuff happening, new beer releases. We still have to determine what our
Triple IPA,
secret anniversary beer is gonna be.
Triple IPA.
Yeah.
Triple. That's all the people want in Florida.
Triple dry hopped.
27% pastry stout
For the triple anniversary.
I think just big bowl IPA. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it. Okay.
But, yeah, no. That's what's happening for
I love it. This is amazing. So if people are in Orlando, how far are you, say, if people want to like dip out from say Disney World, Universal, how far is it approximately?
Oh, from Magic Kingdom it's about 20-minute drive.
Oh, so you'd be silly to be in town and then not swing by. You'd be out of control. Okay. And like you said, hour 15 from Tampa, which is amazing as well. So it's like super quick to zip out there and to check you guys out. And obviously you are available distro. Is your distro relatively, it sounds like it's pretty like thorough across the state?
Yeah. We're with Progressive Distribution throughout the state. And you can get us at most craft beer places and anyone who wants it. for sure.
That's amazing. I love that. I love to hear it. Gentlemen, thank you both for hanging out tonight. This is a pleasure. Like I said, stick around afterwards. We'll finish up off air. Where can everybody find Home State both in person and online?
Well, I'm sorry. Like the beer itself, or
so what's the address of the brewery?
Oh,
and then
got it,
what's
got it.
the website and the social media and stuff
Yeah,
like that. Sorry, I
so-
should have been more specific.
There it is. So our tap room, Home State Brewing Co. in Winter Garden is at 16016 New Independent Parkway, Winter Garden, Florida. And you can see us online at homestatebrew.com.
Homestatebrew.com is a Homestate Brew on Instagram and Facebook and all that.
That's right.
Yep. So check them out. Give them a follow. Keep an eye out what's going on. Make sure you check out. But Marco, Tyler, guys, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. This is genuinely a pleasure. This has been so funny and so much fun. Once again, beers are spectacular. I can't emphasize enough if you're watching and listening to get down to Home State. So once again, stick around. We'll finish up off air. Guys, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast and at Home State Brew. Look at that fucking sexy cheers right there. Check out the long form audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Look at the neck and the beers. I love it. Guys, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, y'all. Peace, peace, peace.